Good evening, and welcome to Monday Night Politics, sponsored by the Dallas Examiner. I am Christy Thomas, a coordinator for today's event. Tonight, I want to give the candidates and the audience a few housekeeping guidelines to ensure that the forum moves smoothly so we can provide a space that is safe and conducive to learning about each candidate. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes for your opening and your closing statement to answer questions from the moderator and the audience. Our guest timekeeper tonight is Yakora Gray. She will provide a placard to inform you of your time you have left to answer questions given. Candidates, this time should be spent talking about how you will implement your plans and your goal for the seat if you are elected. Your time should not be spent talking about your opponent and their shortfalls or their issues. Please remain respectful throughout the forum and respect the space that has been donated to us for the purpose of educating our community on political candidates. Now to the audience. We are so thankful for your presence. We ask that you formulate your question where it pertains to all candidates. You will be allowed 1 minute to ask your question, and only one question can be asked to allow time for others in the audience to ask questions. Again, please be respectful to prevent from interruptions that could cause us to run out of time and not hear from each candidate listed to speak tonight. Any member of the audience should line up to my right here, and you will be provided with a microphone so that everyone will hear the question you are asking the candidate. I want to thank you in advance for your cooperation and your interest in being more informed about candidates running for office in your community. The Dallas Examiner has been presenting Monday Night Politics, Meet the Candidate, for 15 years prior to major elections. I want to stress that all candidates are invited through email invitation. The Dallas Examiner does not endorse candidates. We could not do this alone. Our sponsors are nonprofit organizations, too many to name: All Black Sororities and Fraternities, the NAACP, the Links, and the African American Museum. Our moderator for tonight is Eric Wilson. Eric served on the Dallas City Council and is very familiar with city government and the community. Lastly, please silence your phones, and video recording is prohibited, as well as pictures. On behalf of Molly Belt and the Dallas Examiner, we would like to thank you again for attending Monday Night Politics, Meet the Candidates. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. Happy Black History Month. Ooh, okay, all right. Before we begin, I just want to say, normally you see me in a suit, but because it's Black History Month, I want to just everything, every month, or as I was an educator, I would always inform my classes and let them know that African American history did not start with slavery. And one thing that I did not tolerate is that when we did programs for them to begin with slavery, our history started with kings and queens. Our history starts with us creating civilizations, creating pyramids that they still can't figure out how they constructed, creating governments such as what we're talking about today. So we have a rich history that we should be proud of, and we should not only celebrate African American history for these 28 or 29 days a year, we should celebrate it every day because we're all part of our history. We were trading with the Indians in Mexico 400 years before Christopher Columbus stumbled upon Cuba and thinking that it was America. 200 years before the Vikings discovered America. And we were doing it not in the big British ships that you see, but in canoes, trading back and forth on East and West Africa. So we have a breadth of history of creating civilizations where we commune with one another, individuals that spoke multiple languages, so the intelligence is there. So I just want to iterate that for tonight, and as we begin, Our forum for tonight, I just want to I have another PSA announcement that I want to make sure that everybody understands in this room, the importance of it. And this goes back to those individuals who may say, why my vote doesn't count, or my vote doesn't count. I don't know if you know about it, but raise your hand if you know about it. You know that in Georgia, there's an effort to disqualify voters for the upcoming 24 election. They have done so, they canvassed over 80,000 people and have disqualified 12,000. If you remember, how many votes was a certain person looking for? Okay. That same effort, and I'm saying this to be serious, in all seriousness, please check your voter registration status. That same effort is being done in Texas. Currently, right now, the effort is in East Texas, it's in rural areas, also in urban areas. And if you receive a letter or notice challenging your status, please respond to it, because that is how they're disqualifying individuals. If you don't respond to it, they will disqualify you. So that's a PSA. So please tell your friends, if you have family members like I do in East Texas, please let them know about it. In rural areas, it is real. This is an ongoing effort to disqualify voters. So, all right. So with that being said, let's start with let's get started with what we came here for. Now, the first individuals we're going to have up tonight, most of us don't like them because they send us a bill in the mail every year. We got to pay. We always have all kinds of questions about it. But even Jesus dealt with tax collectors.
Yes,
Read Luke 19, where Zacharias gave his life. So we have some good individuals that understand the importance, but have a difficult job in that. So I would like to invite to the stage tonight incumbent James R. Amos and Elaine Campbell. All right. So before we begin, just to reiterate to our candidates, you'll have 2 minutes because there's only 2 of you. So we want to give you a maximum amount of time to be able to answer questions. Audience members, if you have any questions, please come this side. And I know this is a smart crowd. This is one of the smartest crowds that we've had, right?
yes.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So we're going to ask questions of our candidates. Again, if you have questions, please come here. Our candidates, we are here to inform our constituents about who we are as a candidate and not talk about one another. So when you ask a question, answer the question. And audience members, when you ask a question for both candidates, not just one. Make sure that both candidates can answer the question. All right. So with that, we'll get started. Ms. Amos, you'll be first. We'll start with our opening statement, and then after that, I'll ask questions, and then the audience will ask questions. Ms. Amos, go. Yes, just stay right there.
Okay. Oh, they're going to make me hold still. Okay.
Yes.
Good evening. I'm John R. Ames, and I am your Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector. And I have been for the last 15 years now. And so when I took office in 2009, let's just say I inherited a little bit of a mess, right? And so there was lots to do. We've made a lot of great strides since taking office. We focused on efficiencies and we focused on customer service. We've brought lots of things to the table that Dallas County didn't have before. We've made sure that citizens know when their tax bills are due because we actually send them out on time. So for 15 years, we've sent tax statements out in October as the code says they should. My predecessor failed to do that. I truly believe that if you get your tax bill in time, then you know what your obligation is and you can make plans. In addition to that, we have expanded payment options for people. When I first took office, you could only pay by cash or credit, cash or check. Well, who carries around cash and a check these days? Nobody, right? So we've expanded our payment options both at the point of sale, which means in our locations, and online. In fact, speaking of online, we now have online options. That didn't exist 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, you either had to mail a check into the tax office or you had to come visit one of the locations. That was not fun for anybody to do. And so now we have all kinds of options. We have grocery stores that accept vehicle registrations on our behalf. Over 80 different grocery stores that do that. We call them our neighborhood locations. We have an online payment portal where you can pay your property taxes. Where's my timekeeper, by the way? Oh, good, fantastic. We have online portal where you can pay your property taxes. You can do your registrations. We've made it easier to do business with Dallas County. Because at the end of the day, like he said, nobody likes the tax collector. Nobody likes to get that bill in the mail, right? But when you get it, at least you know that it's accurate and you have options to do what you need to do. So I look forward to being your Dallas County tax assessor again, and I appreciate your support tonight. Thank you.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for having us here this evening. This is wonderful. My name is Elaine Campbell, and I am running for Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector. The reason that I'm running for Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector is because it is very important for the Tax Assessor Collector to have experience as an executive leader, but also be a person who is engaged in the community, and that is what I will bring to the Office of Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector. As I've been block walking and meeting people, and after I've decided to run, I have found out that there are still quite a few people who, especially home buyers, who are not familiar with even the homestead exemption and the other exemptions that are available to them. So what I will bring to the office is a proactive community organization and a robust community organization program, so that people can understand their tax bill, understand what their options are, understand the protest. The protest process. Some people, when they get that tax bill, they just pay it. They just think that's what they have to pay. And it is not because the tax office is doing anything wrong. It is because there are so many properties that they have to assess, so it's based on a formula. So you know your home better and your property better than anyone else. So it is our responsibility to go in and say, you know what, this is actually what's going on. These are the pictures. So I would bring that as the lead tax office. The other thing that I would bring to the office are expanded hours. One of the things that many of the people in the community have told me is that because the office is only open until 4:30 every day, Monday through Friday, they don't have the ability to go in the office when they need to. And so that is one of the main things that I'm hearing, and one of the first things that I would bring to the office. So thank you so much. I am Elaine Campbell, and I am running for Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector.
Kendall, remain.
Huh?
All right, remain, because the next question is yours. So you'll know it comes quick. So just remember that if you're second, just stay there because the next question is
No worries.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'd like to do a warm-up question. So what motivated you to run for this position?
So I've been asked to run for office for many years, and I'm a person who does a lot of research. And what motivated me to run for this position is because it combines the skills that I have. I have extensive skills as a vice president of financial organizations and of IT operations and systems engineering and managing large teams, but I also am a lifetime community organizer and activist. And so when I saw this position, I thought this is a great opportunity to bring those skills together. And that is what motivated me to run for this office.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Same question.
Okay. So when I ran for this office 15 years ago, it was because I was a local tax assessor prior to that. I was actually the DeSoto tax assessor for 8 years, and then prior to that, for 7 years, I was with the City of Garland tax office. So prior to becoming the Dallas County tax assessor, I spent 15 years in local government doing just that, property tax collections. So this year, believe it or not, I'll be my 30th year in the business. I know I'm only 35 years old, so it's hard to understand that. But that is why it's a passion. Nobody thinks, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be the tax collector, right? It's important that people understand the difference between the tax office and the appraisal district. The tax assessor doesn't assess your property. There's no way to protest to the tax assessor collector. That's done at the appraisal district level. So understanding and making sure the community understands what happens at every level is good. One of the things I've done this past year is we did 11 town hall meetings, and we partnered with the appraisal district, explaining the difference between the two government agencies, what they do, how you can protest, and how you can make sure that you don't pay penalties on your taxes. And that's what it's all about, is making sure people understand what they need when they need it. Making sure that they have the tools at their disposal, like online things, so they don't have to come into any of our offices. They can go to a grocery store and get what they need. They can go online to do what they need. And then if they so choose, then they can come to our offices.
All right, so it has been said that there are about 300 people that move to Dallas every day, okay, on average. So what that does, that creates a plethora of problems, and potential problems. So the question is, as the county population grows, what do you see are the greatest challenges as your position as tax assessor?
That's a good question. So there's always pros and cons when you get new people coming into a county, right? Whether it be city services, whether it be county services, you need to make sure that that's the right thing to do. As the tax assessor, that just adds one more person to our role, one more vehicle that has to be registered. The county tax assessor collector is an agent on behalf of the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. In Dallas County last year, we registered almost 2.3 million vehicles. So when people move in, they don't just move in on a moped, they move in with a car or two, they buy a house. And so that becomes a service that we have to provide to them. 10% of all the cars in the state of Texas are right here in Dallas County. So making sure that we have services and things for people to do what they need to do is very important to me. Also making sure that people have the knowledge of what they need. For example, when you move in, your title company gives you about 400 documents to sign, right? One of those is actually a homestead application form with the appraisal district. And so making sure that those get filed, making sure that when you purchase a house, if you're over 65, that you can transfer your exemption from your previous home and county residence to the new one. Right? And so those are the kinds of things that are important when people are moving into your county, and just making sure they know what services are provided to them.
Thank you.
Do I answer the same question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. Again, estimated about 300 people move to Dallas every day. So what that brings in a lot of potential problems. So as the county population grows, what do you see as the greatest challenge as the tax assessor?
I think the greatest challenge is, again, making sure that everyone understands all of the processes that they need to follow through with in order to assure that they do not lose their property. Making sure that they understand that they have a partner as the lead tax assessor office, and especially for all communities, for working families, and also making sure that when they have property, that they have a place that can help them understand processes so that they can have generational wealth, so that they don't lose property. So if their family, generationally, let's say something happened, that and they did not understand how to make sure that they were able to maintain that property, that there is a proactive engagement with the community. So as people are moving in, that people are understanding all of the moving parts and all of the things that are available and the actual things that are done at the tax office and the reasons why, and what the taxes are even used for. Dallas County is huge. So if someone moved, for example, from Harris County, helping them understand the differences, the different laws, the specific laws and the processes. So I think that is the largest challenge.
Thank you. All right, so now, I know. Now, open up for questions from the audience. Come on down.
Hello, how y'all doing? My question is, when it comes to homeowners in low-income communities, I heard the gentleman say that he does. You've done 11 town halls. Would y'all be willing to come to, I would say, low-income neighborhoods and do that, and do workshops? Because a lot of people in my community, they have homes that look like barns, and they're paying $4,000 on a house that looks like a barn, and they don't have any exemptions. And they're not understanding the process of why they're paying so much versus a brand new home in Plano. So would y'all be willing to come out to low-income neighborhoods and do these workshops and really inform people about, about the taxes, so they won't lose their homes and they have an understanding of what's going on.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I would do is not just go in to have the workshop, but proactively engage with the community so that we understand who the specific leaders are. Generally in every community that I have been organizing in, there are a group of people who are consistent community organizers. So we want to make sure that we don't only have reactive meetings, but actually proactive, actively engaging with all communities, ensuring that the time that we go is actually appropriate for the community, that the place that we go is appropriate for the community, and that the people we send are appropriate for the community. There are some communities who need people who speak Spanish. We want to make sure that we have people who speak Spanish. There are some communities who need people who speak Vietnamese. We want to have people who speak Vietnamese. There are some communities who have a large number of incarcerated or formerly incarcerated people. We want to have people who understand that as well, of what that's like to have family in prison or incarcerated. We want to have people who have similar lived experiences, if at all possible, going into the community. So anyway, to answer your question, absolutely, yes, and proactively.
Thank you.
Okay. We would be glad to go and speak anywhere. In fact, like I said, we did 11 town hall meetings last year. That's in addition to the dozens of homeowners associations I spoke at, Lions Club, Rotary Clubs, you name it. If there's a realtor association that needs information, if you have a community that has a group of people that just need to know more information, we'd be happy to do that. One of the things that I put in place when I took office is every tax bill now gets a separate piece of paper inside that tax bill. And at the top it says important information and taxpayer responsibilities. On the front of it is in English, and on the back of it is in Spanish. That's not required by law, but that's what we put in there. And a lot of those things talk about how you file your exemptions, what appraisal district you should go to protest your values. Because again, you can't protest at the tax office. That's not what we do as a government agency. That's done in a separate government agency. Where to go to file your exemptions. That's information that we proactively give you when we mail you your tax statement every single year. In addition, if you were to go online and print one of those tax statements, guess what? The second page automatically comes out as that taxpayer information page. So we're happy to visit with any kind of community out there and help people. Let me tell you about one of the policies that I put in place when I took office. We do not sell people's homes. There is a law that allows you to sell property for delinquent taxes. When delinquent taxes come up and we send delinquent bills and then we turn them over to a delinquent agency and they make phone calls and they knock on the doors, and when it gets to the point where they have to file a lawsuit and then they have to take a judgment, eventually that property goes to a sheriff's sale. I do not sell any property that somebody is living in. We figure out, why are they having problems? Did they inherit the property and they need to get it in their name? Did they not have an exemption? They need to get that filed. I do not put people out of their homes, and I never have. I tell people all the time, I don't want your house because then I have to mow your yard, and I got enough to do already.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Both of y'all partially answered the question, but specifically going to like first-time home buyers, newcomers to the state, where to find like a checklist of items. From personal experience, there's like different locations for your house, for your car, and there's at least 4 to 5 items for each registration, but I don't find that out till like error, like no, come back and need this, come back and need that. So is there like some kind of like online registration calendar or some type of online checklist of, hey, these are the items you need at this time of year, this is coming up, remember to do that? Is there like things online that we can go to that's specific for those items, or do we have to like go to forums like this to kind of be in the know of what's going on? As far as those are my 2 questions.
Okay, so I don't remember 2 questions. The
Checklist of items.
Checklist
online
items and where to come.
registration,
Yeah. So if you go to our website, dallascounty.org/tax, there's actually a shortcut link to that. You don't have to go to Dallas County website and then look for my office. dallascounty.org/tax. That'll bring up the homepage of the Dallas County Tax Office website. There's a plethora of information there. There's frequently asked questions, there's information about car registrations, there's links back to the Texas Department of Motor Vehicle, there's news and announcements about new laws that have come out, there's all kinds of information. When you purchase a home in Dallas County, you purchase it through a title company. When those title companies give you your paperwork, they give you checklists that talk about your homeowner's insurance, your property taxes, how to protest your values. Again, all that information is not only on my website, but it's in those documents that we mail you every year with your tax statement. Vehicle registrations come directly from the state of Texas. They're mailed directly from Austin through the Texas DMV. But when they're mailed, then you can either bring them in, you can go online at that point to either the DMV or the Dallas County Tax Office, and you have all the information there for registering your vehicle. How many people know that or have heard that car inspections are going away? Have you heard that? Okay. You think that's true in Dallas? No. So safety inspections are going away, right? So there's a misconception out there in the state of Texas that we no longer have to get our cars inspected. But we live in what's called an emissions county. And so in Dallas County, inspections aren't going away. You still have to get your vehicle inspected before you come and register it. So I'm partnering with the DMV to make sure that urban counties like Dallas County have a special notice in their vehicle registration that says, I know you may have heard that inspections are going away, not in your county. Please don't go to the county tax office before you get your car inspected. Because the worst thing we can do is have people show up or try to go online and say, I couldn't register my vehicle, right?
Thank you.
So, to answer, the short answer to your question is yes, that information is available. But again, one of the things it's a good question, by the way, because one of the things that I am finding out as I'm going in to talk to communities is that is a common question. There's a lot of different information. Yes, it is available, but that is again why proactive community engagement is very, very necessary and very, very needed. And contacting communities proactively, regularly, in order to explain. And as new people come in, as things change, as people get older, as people come back from school possibly and buy their first home, there's just a plethora of information, and people absolutely become overwhelmed. And so that is again the importance of proactive, regular community engagement, which is what I will bring to the Dallas County Tax Assessor's Office.
All right, as we are moving along, I just want to remind those individuals who are watching us online, please submit your questions, as we will have someone to present those questions for our panelists. So again, if you're online, please submit your questions for our candidates. So one question I'd like to ask, before I begin, are there any other questions from the audience?
The question is, for example, your older parents are dying away. You don't have a clue about what's going on with their taxes. You're trying to keep them alive. You're trying to maintain whatever is going on at that time. Then when they die, all of a sudden you get negative information in about delinquent taxes. Well, if you've already buried 2 people within 7 months, and then you get this tax bill or this tax notification that she had paid taxes, and then you got to go to an attorney. Couldn't we do something before you get an attorney? Could something be put in place? Because you got to understand, most of us that has to come back home and take care of family is a clue. Don't have a clue about the changes in your county. So this is something that I've experienced in
Thank you for that question. It's a really good question. There actually are things in place. That's one of the things I do want to make sure that we're clear about, which is why I am consistently saying that what is needed is proactive community engagement. Is that our current Dallas County Tax Office has a lot of programs in place. They have a lot of community people who are called, and Mr. Ames can correct me what their position is, like community coordinators. We have, I've seen that online. However, when someone is in stress like that, because I've been there as well when my father passed away, clearly there are a lot of other things that are going on in your mind. And so it is beneficial to have someone who is already known and with a partnership in the community with people who know, okay, this is going on with this person. We need to make sure that they understand what all of their options are, what is happening, so that we can hold their hand and have a lead tax official office who is actually in the community holding the hands of the people to help them through not just the good times when you purchase a home, but also the sad times when family members die. One of the things that we do want to help them understand the process is that they can maintain generational wealth and don't lose the property, and what needs to happen, and then partner them with other groups or other organizations so that they can have an understanding of that. So again, I'm sorry for your loss, and thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. So thank you for the question. It's very difficult when you lose a loved one, right? There's a lot of things going on. And the last thing you want to be thinking about is property taxes, right? Or anything else. And so once a year, I do a session with, in partnership with Friendship West Baptist Church down in South Dallas, and it's called Thy Wills Be Done. And one of the things that we talk about, I'm always a panelist, have been for about the last 10 years. One of the things that we talk about is the importance of having a will and the importance of telling people where that information is and what goes on. There's a function of the law called a tax deferral. And if you're over 65 and or disabled, you have the qualifying exemptions for that, you can actually defer your taxes to your death or the time that you sell the property. Now, I tell people all the time, if you're going to do that, tell your children. Tell your children. You'd be surprised how many people come into the tax office and say, I had no idea Mom, Dad had deferred their taxes for the last 10 years. Now, the good thing about that is when a deferment is in place and somebody does pass away, the law allows us time to give you to pay your taxes without penalties and interest. It allows us time, once the appraisal district removes your exemptions, to then send you a corrected statement and give you time to pay those without penalties and interest. And so we would never send anything to a delinquent tax attorney that by law doesn't have proper notification. So we will have notified the property owner, we will notify of the corrected tax statement and of the new tax liability. And at that time, I have a customer care center. I think that's what Ms. Campbell was referring to. Yeah, my customer care center, and that is the largest call center in all of Dallas County. And those folks are there and they're trained to help you understand and walk you through that kind of situation. We don't know when somebody dies, right? You have to tell us. You have to trigger that for us. And so, and when that gets triggered at the appraisal district, the exemptions are removed, we send you a corrected statement. We're there for you. We want you to call and talk to us about what your options are. Can we get you on a payment plan? Can we defer those taxes? Can we get those taxes over into your name so that you can file your own exemption?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, so now we have our run on the senior questions.
Okay.
Very good. So the next question is, let me put it this way. How does the tax office assist senior citizens whose homes are paid off with being able to pay their taxes if they don't have internet access? And what is the education? What education is provided for seniors?
Okay. So seniors have a lot more access to payment agreements than anybody else. If you're over 65 and or disabled, we have what's called a quarterly payment agreement. And as long as you contact our office, when you get your tax bill in October, contact our office within the next 4 months, say, hey, I want to get on one of those quarterly payment agreements. Even if you don't know what it's called, if you just say, hey, I need help paying my taxes, we'll probably say, you know what, you qualify for a quarterly payment agreement. Let's get you on one of those. You make your first quarter by the end of January. We mail you 3 stubs with envelopes already there that are color-coded so that when you mail them back, we know exactly what to do with them and where to put them. And then every other month after that, you get to pay your taxes in 4 quarters with no penalties and interest, which is great, right? I talked about the deferral a minute ago. We may also say to you, hey, we don't want to have you to choose between medicine, food, and taxes. So we may say, Ms. Smith, Mr. Jones, you've got a huge tax liability out there. You're over 65, you qualify for a deferral. We really recommend that you go out there and defer your taxes. And that application is actually filed with the appraisal district. And so there's options for seniors to defer their taxes. There's options for seniors to get on the quarterly payment plan, and they can pay those online or in person. Or like I said, we mail them 3 stubs, and we mail them envelopes where they can just put them on the refrigerator and mail them right back to us. There's also homestead payment agreements for if you're not quite to that point where you qualify for the over 65. There's optional payment agreements. There's ways to pay your taxes. Now, people say to me, I commonly say the Dallas County Tax Office has the highest collection percentage in the history of Dallas County. That's true. Mr. Ames, why are you bragging about collecting more money? Because the money that's due needs to be collected, or the commissioners, the city council members, the school board members will have to raise the rates next year to get what they needed to cover this year. And so when we are actively helping people pay their taxes by giving them payment options, payment plans, we're actually collecting more money than used to be collected prior to me taking office.
Thank you.
So one of the things that, again, that has been brought to my attention as I've been talking to people are the office hours of the tax office. So I actually did a little bit of research because I initially heard this in Commissioner's Court earlier this year. So I did some of my own research and found out that this is something that is still ongoing. If North Dallas was its own city, it would be considered one of the most connected, internet-connected cities in the entire country. And South Dallas were its own city, it would be considered one of the least internet-connected cities in the entire country. So I appreciate the question because you're right. Not only are seniors, but there are people that saying something is online does not mean that they have access to it regularly or when they want to. So one of the things that we would do is understand, working with the employees as well as the community, what type of extended hours are needed for the tax office, whether that be a weekend, whether that be later in the day, whether that be earlier in the day. And also understanding if there is a need for something like the Visiting Nurses Association to partner to be able to bring people if they need that, if they're not able to drive any longer, and online is not something that they are that's available to them or that they feel comfortable with. So those are some things some solutions that I would want to work with. It's important to work with the people who are closest to the problem in order to solution it. And so those are some things that, or some solutions that, because that is a common question that people have asked. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you have the next question? You have the next question? I know.
You told me to
I know, it comes quick, it comes quick. All right, so with that, we talked about solutions, we're talking about finding solutions, and we know that every organization, there's always a wish list. So with that being said, what would be one thing, if any, needed from the Commissioner's Court or state legislation to improve the efficiency of this office?
Higher pay for the employees. If you're only gonna say one, the employees are not paid enough. My opponent actually has asked for that, and so, but that is something that is in the order of the commissioners. And so that is if there was only one thing, it would be higher pay so that the employees are actually making a real living wage, and right now they're not. So,
Thank you.
We agree on that. My employees need more pay, that's for sure. The commissioners have done a great job of studying things and looking to see who gets paid what. But at the end of the day, these are people on the front line handling millions of dollars every single day. They're handling legal documents every single day. And they are some of the lowest paid employees in all of Dallas County. Now, over the last 15 years, we have worked with the HR department, civil service, and the auditor's office to restructure and recategorize several positions within the tax office. And mostly that is just to retain those people, right? Because if Target is around the corner waving a little sign that says we're hiring and it's $2 more an hour than you're making over the county, it doesn't matter how good our benefits are at the county, and they're excellent. It doesn't matter how good all that things are. If I've got a single mom who's got 3 kids and she's having to choose between daycare or putting the gas in the car, she's trying to get $2 more an hour, right? And so that's one of the things. We agree that higher pay, and that's something, the Commissioner's Court will tell you, I don't ask for a lot of things. I don't ask for a lot of employees. I don't ask for a lot of extraordinary things. I ask for what's needed to do our jobs. Every year when we go to our budget hearings, the county administrator, I'll say, we need $10,000 more in office supplies because the cost of toner's gone up. And he goes, that's it? That's all you want? I said, yeah, we're making do with what we have, but we're also working towards creating efficiency so we don't have to ask for more. Now that doesn't mean I haven't always never asked for anything. When we need something in the tax office, I ask for it. And I prove why we get it. And I also remind them, we collect $8 billion a year in the Dallas County Tax Office. We are the main revenue source for Dallas County and most of the local governments that I collect for. $8 billion a year. So do I need the tools and the resources for my team to do their job? Absolutely. Do we have them? Yes, we do. Has the court been good to us? They absolutely have. It's getting hot up here.
My question to y'all is, this evening, the theme was about accessibility. So, like, when it comes to our stickers, our vehicle registration stickers, we can go to the store and renew. Is that possible? Would you look at maybe possibly doing that when it comes to paying property taxes?
There's certain things that you can do and you can outsource and certain things you can't outsource, correct? And so when we're talking about a registration sticker that's less than $100 and you have the ability to train the store and give them the software to be able to do that on our behalf, that's one thing. And we're proud of the fact that we have over 80 different neighborhood locations to do that. Would I trust a grocery store to collect hundreds of thousands of dollars in property taxes on my behalf? I don't think so. I don't think that would be the responsible thing to do, right? I think that means that I would have my trained employees who are bonded and who understand the laws and the regulations, not just the little girl who got hired by Tom Thumb a couple weeks ago collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. So there's things that we can outsource and there's things that's inappropriate to outsource. And at the end of the day, I have to look at fiscal responsibility. I have to look at citizen responsibility. The Dallas County Tax Office is the most public department in all of Dallas County. More people come see us than any other department. I hope more people come see us than the sheriff, that's for sure, right? We don't want them seeing the sheriff or the judges as much as they see us. So at the end of the day, when people think of Dallas County, they think of the tax office. We are the public face of Dallas County. My staff and I joke, we're the Big Lots of Dallas County. That's where people come to get their stuff, right? And so at the end of the day, creating an efficient process for them to do their business and leave our office, I love to get these. I have these orange comment cards in all of our offices. And I love to get the orange comment cards or get the things online. And if you go online, you can read my newsletter, and we put all kinds of comments in there that citizens have made. And they say, wow, that was the easiest government I've ever worked with. Wow, we had no idea that process was going to be so simple. Wow, everybody was so nice. And that's not the easiest thing to do, to be nice to people all the time. But I've got a great staff, and we do a lot of great training.
Thank you.
So, to answer your question, first, I would want to know, or want the office to understand what it is that you're wanting. What it is there right now, are you finding it difficult to pay the taxes? I would want to ask those questions, like why are you wanting, is there a problem? Because there are several ways to pay them, on the phone and by check or in the office. So I want to understand what is your current challenge? I don't know if
No,
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's what I would want to do. Again, just by being engaged. If people are asking those kinds of things, I think it's really important to be a listener and to understand, okay, well, why is this, in order to solve a problem, first you have to understand what the problem is, right? And then you want to explain to that person how our office operates and what the current options, make sure they do understand what the current options are, then at that point, come to a solution of some kind that can help it make it easier for them if they are having a difficult time for at that point in time, if they are having a challenge paying, why? What is the challenge? So that would be my answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so with that being said, it's been said that we know that as a tax assessor, you collect a bunch of information. You have a bunch of information on all of us. You know, what kind of cars we drive, our homes, all of that information is very valuable. So, as a tax assessor, the question is, data security and privacy are critical when handling sensitive taxpayer information. How do you plan, or what is your plan, or what do you do to ensure the security and confidentiality of taxpayer data is kept safe?
I know that this is something that the tax office has worked on and has had some challenges with over the past year, and it's been public, it's in the newspaper. So I know that this is something that it's not a situation where I have to say, this is what I will do. There are plans in place for this, I do know that. They've been communicated, they've been publicized, and they've been presented publicly. Having a robust IT security person. I have a large experience, extensive experience in IT security as well. At having tests, making sure that there are consistent tests done, making sure that there are audits, not just external audits, but internal audits, to assure that the appropriate processes are in place to keep information secure. Making sure that there are also internal and external audits to make sure that the tools being used are the appropriate ones that are being kept up to date, and that there are even actual tests done to see, how easy is it to get information, or how difficult is it to get information. That is clearly something that is very critical, and it will always be critical, and it's not going to become less critical. So yes, that is absolutely something that would be an ongoing effort. And there are efforts in place right now. We can't pretend that there aren't, and that will definitely be ongoing and very, very robust.
So let me make it very clear, the Dallas County Tax Office has never ever had a data breach. Again, that was a separate government agency. That was the Dallas Central Appraisal District, not under the control of the tax assessor or the Commissioner's Court, a separate government agency. So let me point out, we have two different types of data in the tax office. We have your property tax data, as you said, right? Where you live, the type of home you have. By law, a majority of that information is public and required to be out there. You can pull up my website at dallascounty.org, you can pull up the appraisal district's website, and you can search anybody's address and see who owns the property, how many bedrooms are in the property, what their value is of the property, and what their taxes are. By law, I cannot restrict that information. Now you go over to the registration side where people have vehicles, where we do titles. That data is actually maintained by the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. And so we don't even access that data on a county network. The Department of Motor Vehicles actually brings in their own fiber line to every single one of our locations with their own computers, and my staff accesses your vehicle registration and your vehicle title records on that database that is owned and operated by the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. Again, never ever has the Dallas County Tax Office under my tutelage had any kind of cyber breach. That being said, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, right? And so we're constantly working with the Dallas County IT department to make sure that all of our systems are secure and safe. We're working with the Chief Privacy Officer that's recently appointed to Dallas County. Mr. Miller and I talk about once a week. We've even put in fraud insurance policies in place within the Dallas County Tax Office to make sure if any of that gets done, then we can handle that. My office was one of the first county offices to have a cybersecurity insurance policy in all of Dallas County. And in fact, our Chief Privacy Officer right now is working with the people that we work with, and we've had that policy with for many years to broaden that countywide.
Good evening. My question is, you want me to hold it? Okay. I just don't want to be journey. My question is, recently, over the past couple weeks in hip hop culture, a major rap artist, Nicki Minaj, a lot of her fans doxed a lot of her critics. And I believe, my understanding is a lot of these people's personal information was assessed through tax records. So if that information has to be public, how do you encourage us to safeguard ourselves against, especially those of us who are either public figures or criticizing the powers that be? How do we insulate ourselves from being doxxed using the information in your office? Do you know what I mean by doxing?
Would you explain further?
Okay, so doxing is when people put your personal information out and encourage people to, a good example of it is like Megan Thee Stallion, the location of her mother's grave was put out there so people could go like defame her grave or put your personal information so people can come harass you.
Right. So again, the information that's required to be public for the tax office is your home information. It has nothing to do with your personal information. We don't give away phone numbers, email addresses. I don't even have phone numbers and email addresses in my system, right? And so all that personal information is not at our disposal and never has been. We don't keep driver's license, social security numbers, phone numbers, emails, none of that. All we have is your property address. So the same stuff people could get if they drove down the street and made a list of all the property addresses as they went by. Again, following the laws of the Texas legislature, there's certainly ways to tighten those up. One of the things that we've done working with the Texas legislature is no longer can you look at somebody's property online and see that they have an over 65 exemption. Because what happened was people were going out there and they were targeting seniors, right? They were going out there and they were knocking on seniors' doors and saying, hey, I can do some repair work for you. And so no longer is it listed that you have an over 65 exemption on the websites. In addition to that, public figures under a certain category as allowable by the Texas legislature can have their information confidential. Most of the judges in this room have confidential. Law enforcement in this room have confidential accounts. And that's something that you can do if you fall into that category. You can file that confidential status with the appraisal district, and then your record will be withheld confidential. Now, I will say this. When you go to pay your taxes online and you're confidential, you have to call us because you don't have access because you have personally asked that information be restricted.
So that's a really good question because that's becoming more common rather than less. And it's not only affecting public officials. There are people who I work with who, because of their opinion, because of their political opinion, no one even knows them, because of their political opinion, and because social media is so rampant that people, just normal people, regular people, everyday people are being doxxed. Well, so one of the things that it's important to understand is that everything that is presented or everything that is done by the Dallas County Tax Office is based on the law. So there are some tax offices that have more of a robust legislative partnership with as part of the office in order to keep up with things like that and to understand that if possibly we need to work with lawmakers to effectively change laws based on what's happening in the current society. So that's one thing that we may want to encourage, is because that is something that is real, and that is something that unfortunately is becoming more prevalent rather than less. So, but the only thing that the tax office is able to do is follow the current laws. So that's something that there maybe there are some additional laws that need to be put into place. Even though the tax offices, they're not lawmakers, maybe need to advocate for. That's something to think about, and that's a good question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Remain. All right, that's one of the things. That's one of the beautiful parts about Monday Night Politics. You always learn something. I learned docs.
Me too.
All right, write that one down. All right, so with that, we have come to our 2-minute closing. So, Ms. Campbell, we'll begin with you.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. This has been wonderful. I absolutely love talking in forums like this. My name is Elaine Campbell, and I am running for Dallas County Tax Assessor's Collector Office. One of the things that I have been mentioning is that I would want to, that is very needed in our tax office, is a robust, proactive community engagement for all communities, making sure that the needs of all of our communities, which our communities are very different, the needs of all of our communities are understood, and that the people who are closest to the problems related to any business that they're doing in the tax office are part of the solution of the problem. So again, thank you so very much for having me, and I look forward to you voting for me for Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector, and I am Elaine Campbell. Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you to Ms. Belt and the Dallas Examiner for hosting these. I've always enjoyed coming to Monday Night Politics, whether I'm on the stage or in the audience listening to what's going on. So, Ms. Campbell has been a great opponent. She doesn't say mean things about me or the tax office, and I appreciate that, and I want to thank you for that, which is great. I am John R. Ames. I'm your Dallas County Tax Assessor Collector. I have been for the last 15 years. I look forward to being for the next 4-year term. We've taken the tax office from good to great. We really have. But as one of our commissioners will say, we're not done yet, right? We're not. And so there's always things that we need to do going forward. There's always improvements that we can continue to make. There's always new technology out there. This week, in fact tomorrow, my office is doing a pilot program with the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles for dealerships within Dallas County. We have 2,600 car dealerships in Dallas County, and we're piloting a program for the entire state of Texas to get these dealerships moved onto a web dealer program, which is an internet program, so that when you buy a vehicle in a car dealership, then that car dealership can go and do all their transactions online. That's the kind of innovation that I brought to Dallas County. We talk about working with the state and our legislators. When the law was passed in the 3rd special session for property tax relief, I had legislators on the phone with me and the governor's office on a Sunday afternoon asking about wording for that law to make sure that it could be implemented properly at the county level. Those are the kind of relationships that I've built over the past 15 years. People can call me personally on my cell phone and say, Mr. Ames, if we do this, how does it affect your office, how you bill statements, how you collect money, and what will it cost the citizens in your county? What is the implementation of that? And that's why you got your tax bill with the reduced amount this year prior to the election. The original law said, mail them a tax bill, have the election, then mail them a refund or a new bill. And I said, no, that doesn't work. So having relationships like that really works. John R. Ames, your Dallas County Tax Assessor, your friendly neighborhood tax assessor.
All right, let's give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, as we transition to our next set of candidates, when does early voting begin?
20th of February.
Through?
March 1st.
All right, just check. I just want to make sure. All right. So next we have our Chief Justice, 5th Court of Appeals District. We have Justice Denise Garcia, Judge Stacey Williams. All right. As we prepare, again, those that are watching online, please submit your questions we have for our candidates. So we'll begin with our 2-minute opening, and we'll start with Justice Garcia.
Thank you, Dallas Examiner, for sponsoring tonight's event and all the sponsors of the event as well, for helping citizens to examine the issues before you and discern how they feel about them. I'm Denise Garcia. I'm a justice on the 5th District Court of Appeals. I am running for Chief Justice. That's the administrative head of the largest court of appeals in the state of Texas. That is somebody who has to serve as justice, is the same job as all the other 12 justices, and someone who does the administration of the court. What that ends up meaning is you are an administrator among equals. You're not the boss of the other 12 justices. You know who the boss of the other 12 justices is? All of you. You are the hirers and the firers of the justices for the Court of Appeals. So my job isn't to try and whip anybody into shape to do their job. My job is to manage the support staff that's there for all 12 of those justices, including the Chief Justice. I come to you with a history of experience on the court. I have 30 years legal experience. I have 16 years of that 30 years as a district judge and 3 years on the Court of Appeals. I've received the highest bar poll ratings for that court of any justice on that court. And I won awards for my management skills, including outstanding court staff, including an award from the Dallas Volunteer Attorney Program for work that I've done as a district judge to bring the courts outside of the regular business hours and into the community. I look forward to answering and entertaining your questions. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Judge Stacy Williams. I'm currently the presiding judge of the 101st Civil District Court, and I'm running to be the next Chief Justice of the Dallas Court of Appeals. It's also called the 5th District Court of Appeals. Now, the Chief Justice of the 5th District Court of Appeals actually is the CEO administrator. The Chief Justice will work on a couple opinions, but just last year, according to the docket, the Chief Justice only handled about 20 written decisions, whereas the other justices on average issued about 77. So it's purely administrative role. They supervise the clerks. They make sure that the panels are fair, that the justices are doing their work. So it is a role of an administrator and a supervisor. Also, if necessary, the chief judge will go down to Austin to lobby. Leadership is also about education. I'm a graduate of the Georgetown University Law Center and Smith College with a degree in economics. I also did special studies in economics at Yale University. What really helps with my management experience is that I've been certified as a senior professional in human resources. Leadership also means innovation. When I ran back in 2014, people came up to me and said, when you run, don't put me in jail. And I'd say, well, I can't put you in jail because I'm a civil judge. I created the Citizen Civil Academy, a free nonpartisan program to educate citizens about the civil court process. Since 2015, we've educated over 350 citizens in over 13 locations across Dallas County. And guess what? I pay for that program with my campaign funds. So it's truly a program for the people, by the people, and it's throughout the whole time. It's not just during election time. I look forward to talking to you more about my experience and why I, Stacy Williams, am the best candidate to be Chief Justice of the 5th District Court of Appeals.
If you would remain, please.
Oh.
Yes, it's gonna go by quick, so I'll be mindful
All right.
to help you out. All right, so with that being said, my first question I'd like to ask, most of us, we've heard you all speak, but most of us may not understand all the legalese that have been spoken. I don't know about you, but my degree was in business, so it wasn't in law. So if you would, could you explain to us how one of our cases would come before you and what exactly the type of cases would be before you?
Okay, how many minutes do I have?
Two.
All right, so in Texas, we have 6 levels of trial courts. We start at the bottom with the Justice of the Peace, the municipal courts, we have the county courts, then the district courts. The district courts are our main trial courts. So in a district court, we take evidence, we listen to the jury, will usually make a decision, we have witnesses. Based on the jury's decision, or sometimes the judge will make a decision, if you're not happy, you can appeal to the 5th District Court of Appeals. The issue is when you appeal to the 5th District Court of Appeals, you don't get to add new evidence, you don't get to bring in that witness you just found out about. It's a review of the transcript of the evidence that's been admitted to see if the trial judge has committed any error. If you don't like that decision, there's a possibility of you appealing to, if in a civil case, the Texas Supreme Court. The problem is the Texas Supreme Court does not have to take your appeal. So when it's at the 5th District Court of Appeals, we're sometimes referred to as the court of last chance, because you can appeal to the Texas Supreme Court. They might not take your appeal. The 5th District Court of Appeals also hears criminal cases. Those cases are appealed also to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. And I know it's confusing because in Texas, our Supreme Court doesn't only hear civil cases. On the equivalent level is the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, has the same name, but it's like the Supreme Court for criminal cases.
Judge Williams has done a good job of explaining that to you. I'm just going to try and re-summarize to kind of give you a simplification. You have trial courts, the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, and the Court of Criminal Appeals. We're known as the Court last resort, because we're the last court that must take your appeal. If you don't like what the trial judge did, the trial judge made a mistake, that's something that we consider at the Dallas Court of Appeals. If we make a mistake, or if you believe we've made a mistake, the civil cases will go to Texas Supreme Court, the criminal cases will go to the Court of Criminal Appeals. The exception to that is death penalty cases. Those cases don't go to the Fifth Court of Appeals, they go straight to the Court of Criminal Appeals. I think that's about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything. She gave a pretty thorough answer, wouldn't you agree? She's a smart woman. And
so are you.
Oh yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. There's no animus between the two of us, you'll be able to tell pretty quickly. We're both just running for chief. And with that, I'll give you some time back and we can answer the next question.
All right, with that being said, just a follow-up question on that. So you told us what the court does and what type of cases that would be before you. So could you give us like the geographical boundaries of the areas that you serve? And with that, how would you address, or how do you address concerns related to backlog civil cases?
Okay, we are the largest court of appeals, but the smallest geographically. That's Dallas, Collin, Hunt, Grayson, Kaufman, and Rockwall. I've heard quite a bit about the supposed backlog in the Court of Appeals. I heard about this last week, and it concerned me because I thought, well, no, backlog's no good. The cases for the last term, I went and reviewed them. That's where your backlog would be. Looked at the term last year. The cases that we were responsible for were about 1,447, give or take. The backlog left over from last year is 20 cases. That's it, 20 cases. That's 1%. Okay, 1% of the cases from last term are still being worked on. And I also heard there was a concern that we give preference to civil cases instead of criminal cases. Out of the 20 cases that are part of the quote-unquote backlog, 12 of them are civil. Those are the ones that are 12 late civil cases and 8 late criminal cases. Now, there are a variety of reasons of why a case might be late. I'd be happy to answer that question in the next go-round or any future go-round. But the bottom line is the legislature starts to get concerned about a Court of Appeals backlog when you get to have more than 5%. We are at 1%. We don't want any backlog, but to have a 99% completion rate at the end of a term is a good one. I myself, personally, my chambers have a 100% completion rate and have had it every year that I've been on the Court of Appeals.
Thank you.
I've also looked at the statistics from the 5th District Court of Appeals published by the Office of Court Administration. There is a problem. Criminal appeals. There are 14 criminal appeals in the state of Texas. The 5th District Court of Appeals has the worst record in the state of Texas for criminal cases pending for more than 24 years. For 24 months. So you are denying someone their life and their liberty. When you are a district court judge, and if you're in the jurisdiction where you have criminal and civil cases, criminal cases get the priority. They're not getting the priority. You can talk about 99%, but if you have been sitting on a case for more than 2 years, that's a problem. And that's a worse record than all the 14 Court of Appeals for the state of Texas. And she's right. This is totally unacceptable. They have 13 justices, more than any district court of appeals in this state. They have 33 staff attorneys. There is no reason why this backlog exists. So you can say 99, 98, but when you look at 6 cases that are still pending, more than 2 years, the worst record for the state of Texas, we've got a problem.
I know. I'm so quick. Okay, so we have this is a question from the audience. And again, if you have audience, if you have questions, this is your time to please step down. Again, remember you are the smartest audience that we have. So therefore, you have questions, right? Yes, all right. Okay. All right, so the question was, How current is the Fifth Circuit of Appeals in terms of cases? How current? I think you may have already answered this question. So how current are the cases, or the case
Well,
law?
you mean, okay, so the Office of Court Administration, which records statistics for all the Court of Appeals in the state of Texas, has certain criteria. The first tranche is less than a year. The second is a year to 18 months. No, a year to 2 years, and then greater than 2 years. And so, when you look at the total statistics, the Fifth District Court of Appeals is in the middle. Even though they have more justices than any other Court of Appeals in the state, and they have 33 staff attorneys.
Thank you.
This is where it helps to have some experience and understand what these numbers mean. As the largest court of appeals, we do have the largest staff. We have the largest number of cases. So that if every justice, they try to even out the number of cases that get heard by each justice throughout the state of Texas. So that every justice should be hearing somewhere between 70 and 90 cases, merits cases, okay? If you have 13 justices and each of them is behind one case, they're behind 13 cases for the court. If you have a court of appeals that has 3 justices and each of them is behind one, you have 3. So looking at the raw numbers, it looks like 3 to 13. Oh my gosh, what's happening with the 5th district? Well, it's just 1 case per justice. So 20 cases represents the number of cases spread out over 13 justices. Now, again, I don't like being behind. That's why my record's always been 100%. And I think it's important to understand what a judge's record is from their past. What have they done in the past, and that might be a good predictor of how they're going to do in the future. I kept my docket clean when I was a district judge. I keep it clean as a justice. Now, those 20 cases can mostly be attributed to 3 justices on the court. Most of the other justices have all of their cases completed. Of the 3, and I'm not going to call them out by name because everybody has different reasons for why they might be behind. Of the 3 justices, 1 of them is not running for re-election. I can't tell you why. I don't know why. Maybe he thought the job wasn't for him. But he's not going to run again. So you have 2 other justices. You can kind of look at the records, figure those out for yourself. I think having a clean docket is really important. That's why I have always insisted on making sure that my dockets are done well. And that's why the Texas Center for the Judiciary has asked me to teach other justices judges throughout the state of Texas about best docket management practices.
My question is about dockets. Last Monday, Justice Corey Carlisle, who is one of your colleagues, he stated that he ghostwrites for some of the colleagues. My question to that is because sometimes these cases have to go to, if the court does make a decision that they're not happy with, then they do have to file a motion for reconsideration or a motion for en banc. And so if he has made an opinion in a case and written an opinion on a case for a justice who is not listed, as one of the 3 that are on the panel, would that be, is that appropriate? Is that ethical for full transparency? Because he could appear on the en banc and had already seen the case and heard about the case and made a decision on the case from one of the justices. And then also, well, I guess that's the question. Just like causing a legal conflict later on.
Okay, the justice who writes the opinion is not excused from the en banc proceeding. Quite the contrary. If you participated in the decision, even if you're not in the court anymore, you can sit in on that en banc opinion. So writing the opinion, the first draft of it, in and of itself doesn't cause the conflict. If he's ghostwriting for somebody, I can tell you usually how the process goes. If you're the justice responsible for the opinion, you tell the writer who's writing the first draft, this is the decision that the panel made, and here's the reasoning. And so the first draft that you put together, please write it this way. If it isn't written that way, that justice can either scrap that entire opinion, rewrite it themselves, or perhaps have one of their staff attorneys, another staff attorney write it. Okay, if they think that it's not reflective of what the panel decision was or what that justice said. But in and of itself, writing an opinion preparing a draft. And there's nothing to say that just because he wrote wrote the opinion, that doesn't mean he wasn't part of the panel. He may have been part of the panel that made the decision. I don't know whether he's been a part of those panels or not. Pitching in to write the first draft is really just, here's the first draft of what you told me to write. I hope it's good. Let me know if there are any corrections or edits. And the justice who is responsible for the opinion is responsible for making sure that it reflects the panel opinion and their requested reasoning.
Thank you for that question. You as the citizens have a right to know who's writing the opinions for the 5th District Court of Appeals. You have a panel of 3, it should be one of the 3 attorneys. Drafts are usually written by the briefing attorneys, one of the 33 who work for the Court of Appeals. I think we're doing the citizens a disservice when someone else is ghostwriting. I didn't think of that term. He said it, said I ghostwrite because there are justices who are behind. Well, if there are justices who are behind, you know what? Then they need to be held accountable. We need to know who's not doing their work. We need to know who is writing the decision. Because who knows, and maybe he's ghostwriting for a lot of the other problems that we hear about in the newspaper. It's not fair to the citizens. And when I become Chief Justice of the 5th District Court of Appeals, we're going to be transparent and honest with the citizens.
How long do y'all have to write an opinion?
I think as long as, what I would like to do, as long as the justices need to write it, but I think when you're getting next to 6 months, we need to check in and find out what's going on. Being a good Chief Justice is also making sure that the panel's assignments are fair. That one justice is not being asked to write opinions, let's say, from a 30,000 transcript, and another justice is always just writing dismissals when the parties, for example, settle the case before the case is either assigned to the panel or the panel issues a decision. So it's a lot of work for that Chief Justice to ensure that the assignments are fair and that people are getting, the justices are getting their decisions issued. I have a real problem with those 6 criminal cases that are still sitting on their dockets, the worst record in the state of Texas. Because what I'm going to do when I become Chief Justice is find out who are those justices, and that's going to be their priority, getting those criminal cases resolved. I mean, that's worse than Eastland, Texarkana. It's unacceptable. Yeah. Totally unacceptable. So we've got to make people accountable.
Okay, I made a few notes here. There are 3 cases that are over 24 months. And there's a reason they are over 24 months. There are some cases where we can't do anything with the case until the Court of Criminal Appeals or the Supreme Court does something. We can't do anything with it. Those are cases in a status of abatement. We have 3 of them. We have the most cases in the state of Texas that are coming to us, which is why we would have more than a 3-panel court out in Texarkana. That's why they only have 3 judges. We have 13 of them, and our numbers get equalized. So those are 3 cases that we can do nothing about because we're waiting on a higher court to do something with them. With regard to judicial decision making, that is protected by the rules. It's an ethical violation to disclose the process that a judge goes through to reach the reasoning. The only way that a judge can disclose that process is through an opinion. And so if you're talking about a Chief Justice coming in, undermining the 12 justices that you have already elected, and making them vulnerable to a Republican attack, that's problematic because it calls the Chief Justice practice into ethical question. It's against the ethical rules, and I'm surprised that it's even having to be addressed. But also, it's calling into question the people you've already elected. We don't have briefing attorneys on the Court of Appeals. We have staff attorneys. And the longest that you can track a case is that they start keeping track of them at 6 months. So the amount of time that it takes that you have to write a case from submission, I try to get mine done within 3 months, but they don't start getting tracked until they're 6 months, and then a year, and then over that. Oh, and I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay.
Good evening, judges. My question is about your legal background before you became a judge. The first part of my question is, where did you clerk? I can only do one. Okay, I can't do a compound question. My question is that I believe lawyers who go through the prosecutor office they have an inherent discrimination in their formation as a lawyer coming through the prosecutor office. So did you start off in the prosecutor's office?
Thank you. It's Brittany, isn't it?
It's Brittany, but yes.
Brittany, I recognize you from my church. My husband was a pastor, at North Haven, and I think one of your groups met there. I didn't go through the prosecutor's office. In private practice, I was a family lawyer, and then I was a district judge for 16 years, and I did actually have some quasi-criminal proceedings, occasionally having to consider whether or not to incarcerate someone, and then 3 years on the Court of Appeals. My experience matches that of Carolyn Wright, who was the Chief Justice in the Court of Appeals. She had a family law background first, and then she was a family law judge, and then joined the Court of Appeals. And Linda Thomas, who was the Chief Justice before her, who was also in private practice for family law judge, and then on the Court of Appeals. And I think it's no accident that the family law judges end up being in the management positions for the Court of Appeals. You deal with a lot of conflict in family court, and you have to learn how to manage it well. There's not a ton of conflict. We're a very collegial group, but there is some conflict in the Court of Appeals. And working with 12 people who don't answer to you, conflict management is an essential part of that. I did want to touch on panels and how they're assigned. They're randomly assigned. Everybody gets assigned the same number of cases in those panels. You switch around 4 times a year, and then everybody shares writ duty. Those are called original proceedings. You're not reviewing a record as much as you are making a decision for the first time on whether or not a judge did something correctly or incorrectly. And we're getting into legalese now that's shared equally among the justices as well. So nobody has a heavier caseload than another. It may look like the merits opinions are more for one judge than another. There's a reason for that. If you have a question, it's a long drawn out explanation. If you have that question, I'd love to address it with you. But generally speaking, everybody has the same amount of work on the Court of Appeals.
I have to base all my information on the Office of Court of Appeals statistics. It does make a difference. We have justices on the Court of Appeals on average who issue about 77 opinions a year. Just last year, Justice Garcia only issued 66. There is a need to get the justices to issue their decisions. My background, I'm a graduate of the Georgetown University Law Center. It's one of the top law schools in the country. I clerked in the Virgin Islands for Judge Eileen Peterson, who was the first woman judge in the Virgin Islands. We had concurrent jurisdiction with the federal courts, both criminal and civil. After clerking in the Virgin Islands, I was in-house corporate counsel in the defense industry. I got bored with that, so I moved to Washington and worked as legal counsel to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, where I worked on judicial nominations, and I worked with lobbyists and legislators on legislation regarding telecommunications, IP, and IP issues and civil rights. I also have my own legal business where I handle family, juvenile, criminal, and civil cases. So I am more than qualified to be Chief Justice of the 5th District Court of Appeals. And it's important because you know what? You've got to look at statistics. You've got to pull on the breadth of your experience to be a good leader. And I think Justice Wright and Justice Thomas did great things. But guess what? There's work that needs to be done in the Court of Appeals. They have over 33 staff attorneys, 0 or black. You want to keep business as usual? That's one thing. They have 33 staff attorneys, and across the state, there are no black chief justices in the state of Texas, 14. On the Court of Appeals, thank you.
My name is Serrano Keith Baldier from the Dallas Falls News and the Dallas Judiciary Review. So I'm going to walk this up to you. A lot of minorities don't have a lot of money when they go to court, and they don't know what the laws are, the rules are. You know what a standing order is. It comes up to the appellate court where you are.
Okay, I'm not at the appellate court now. I'm a trial court judge.
Hold on.
Okay.
You're going to be the chief.
It's your question.
So you're going to be the chief managing all these judges, I'm assuming, right? Is there anything that you can do, like a standing order, to speak to minorities who didn't have a lawyer and they get kind of confused by the lower courts because they're facing lawyers themselves? They're pro se. They're pro se because they can't afford it.
Okay.
And a lot of mistakes were made, and then it gets to your court. Is there anything you can do managing the judges to speak to that?
Well, justice is blind, all right? So the only thing that the justices will be able to do is to look at the record and see if error is made. As a trial court judge, I tell my pro se's that we make very clear, I have to hold you to the same standards as an attorney. What I can do as a trial court judge, I'll say, I'm going to give you 90 days to find an attorney. You can decide to proceed, but I'm going to have to hold you to the same standards as an attorney, which means compliance with the Texas Rules of Evidence, Texas Rules of Civil Procedure, and any other applicable rule. So if someone decides to proceed with a trial and they make error, there's not much I can do, because that's the way the system is made. Maybe you can go to the legislature, but once it gets to the Court of Appeals, there's nothing that can be done. It can't be done at the trial court level. We've got to have an even playing field.
Thank you.
When I was in private practice, I went to court one day and I was watching a self-represented litigant go up to the judge and try and get an order entered. And they had an exchange, and I looked at the judge, and the judge asked the litigant, "Why don't you just get a lawyer?" And I saw the litigant look at the judge with this look of, "You don't know anything about me. You don't know about my life." And I recognized that look. It's the look that I'd seen on my parents' faces before when they had gone to court for any reason. And I understood it. And I remember sitting there thinking, that's a shame. Somebody should bridge that gap between the judge who's frustrated with the concerns that Judge Williams talked about, I have to be equal with everybody, and the litigant who needs to get justice but doesn't speak the language, doesn't speak the language of legalese. And then I had an epiphany. Wait, I can bridge that gap. I've won awards from Dallas Volunteer Attorney Program for my work with self-represented litigants. Keeping my court open longer. Last week I heard people say, I'll come in 9 to 5. I come in 9 to 5, and I stay later. That's why I got the awards. I took court off campus on a regular basis to meet litigants in spaces where they could prove up their cases, that is, finalize their cases if coming to court was too difficult. That's why I won that award twice. I take this job seriously, and yes, you have to have an even playing field. But it's not an even playing field if you have no legal training and you're coming to court and you don't understand anything about it. We have been working on initiatives in the Court of Appeals to give information to pro se litigants, self-represented litigants, so they understand the process a little bit better. It's a very complex agency. So we're working on it. It's not as quickly as it should be, but it's been something we've been working on for the last 3 years.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that time where we'll begin with our 2-minute closing. Again, this is an educational opportunity, and I have learned one thing, that I do not want to be in this process. So I want to make sure that I stay out of it. So we'll begin with, yes, Justice, you have the opening statement, Judge Williams will have the beginning closing statement. So, hold on, Judge.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
No problem.
I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. All right.
First of all, I want to thank the Dallas Examiner for conducting this voter education program. I am Judge Stacey Williams, and I am running to be the next Chief Justice of the 5th District Court of Appeals. I've mentioned leadership. Leadership is not only exhibited in education and experience, but I want to talk about you need someone who's going to go in and make a difference. You want someone who's going to look at the numbers, hold people accountable. We want someone who will make a difference. I don't want to come back 6 years from now and tell you that there are 33 staff attorneys and 0 are black. I want the staff to look like the 5 counties that we represent. We can make a difference. There are 0 Chief Justices who are black in the state of Texas for the Court of Appeals. We need to change the makeup of the staff. We need someone who's going to be the Chief Justice, who's going to work hard and make a difference. I've done that throughout my career with the creation of the Citizen Civil Academy, Coffee and Bagels with 101st. Please let me be your next Chief Justice of the 5th District Court of Appeals. Thank you.
What we've seen is the difference between book smarts and street smarts. I'm familiar with the Office of Court of Administration, but I actually work in the court. I understand what those numbers mean. To say that I have 20 fewer opinions than anybody else on this court for this last year, doesn't understand. The same number of opinions get assigned to every justice every year. In 2022, at the end of that year, I had finished all of my opinions. I had the most opinions of anybody that year. The next year, I was assigned the same number of cases as everybody else. The justice who had 20 more cases than I did that year was catching up from their docket the previous year. That's why they had a heavier caseload. The reason I had a lower caseload is because I had already finished my work from the prior year. And if you look at the statistics over the 2 years, you'll see that. If you look at the statistics for the Court of Appeals, the Dallas Court of Appeals is the most diverse Court of Appeals in the state of Texas. Our management, our support staff, our clerks, all diverse from all different walks of life. Our staff attorneys do need some work, but I can tell you what the problem is there. The problem is we don't pay enough. When I was in private practice 20 years ago, I made $20,000 more a year than the highest paid staff attorney in the Court of Appeals today. And I'm not controlling for inflation. $20,000 a year more. When I graduated from law school, I had 2 things, debt and earning potential. And I wasn't going to give up my earning potential for the privilege of working on the Court of Appeals. So that's our first problem in addressing the diversity issue. But we are the most diverse. That's not an award. We still have work to do, and I'd like to help do it because I understand the information and I understand where we're going and how to get there.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Round of applause. Thank you, ladies. And we'll talk about our County Commissioners Court Precinct 1 race. So if I could I have Teresa Daniel, the incumbent, please come to the stage, and Andre Turner. We only have one individual, so with that, Mr. Turner, you'll have 5 minutes per question. No, just kidding. Just kidding. With that, we'll still ask for audience participation. This will go a little quicker in terms of asking and answering questions. So we'll begin with our 2-minute opening. Mr. Turner.
Good evening. I'm glad you guys stayed to endure. My name is Andre Turner. I am a retired probation officer with Dallas County Adult Probation Department for 28 years. Part of those 28 years, I've dealt with domestic violence cases. So I've worked directly with judges in the court system. When I retired, I wasn't through working. I decided to go back to my first love, which is education, which I'm teaching at Townview Law Magnet, criminal justice. For 20 years, I sponsored kids from that school on my dime to get through college. A lot of them look like me. I gave them hope to make sure that, no, you need to be in college. And how we're going to get there, don't worry about it. We're going to get you there. We're going to take care when you get you there. But that was my passion. I am humble. I come from with education. It taught me the benefits of working in the community. The bulk of my profession has been in depth with the community, engaging. I sat on the city council board, police oversight board for 2 years, but prior to that, the Judicial Nomination Commission, to make sure that we had judges down there that were fair, that when people come up in the court, they're not afraid to talk to them because you have some people that are on the bench that look like you. And that was my passion for 10 years. I'm not afraid to work, and I'm woke to work.
All right. Let's begin with our warm-up question. So what led you to run for this position?
Well, being in District 1, if you drive down the street, you're going to run into all kinds of potholes. No one's taking care of it. Safety concerns. Safety concerns is a big issue. Every now and then you'll see all this shooting going up in the air and no one's talking about it. Several districts, several municipalities in this district deals with a lot of homicides, with gunshots. No one addressed the issue. I think, like I said, it was time for someone to be that vehicle, be that voice to the district, and not just a certain district, all districts. You know, Pleasant Grove, I live in the Grove, and I can tell what service we get in Pleasant Grove and what service we get in Lake Highlands. I'm gonna keep it 100. You know, and you know, just based on my background, you know, I believe in being transparent. I believe in being transparent with the community and keep the community informed and educated. It's a shame that when as a grassroots candidate, you have to knock on doors. And when you knock on doors, the scenes will let you know. Before I could knock on the door and show my push card, they said, well, who you running against? Because if you're running against Price, I can't talk to you right now. Some of them are still thinking that Commissioner Price is our commissioner. You know, and it's a shame. And that's where the education comes up in there. Town hall meetings. Let the community know what's going on in this community.
Thank you. Again, if you're watching online, we encourage you to submit your questions for answer for our candidates. So again, if you're online, please submit your questions. Audience members, please prepare your questions. Prepare to ask your questions. One more question. How do you plan, yeah. Get your water. You get the fun part of understanding what it means to stand up here all day. All right, you'll get the pleasure of sitting down. All right, how do you plan to address concerns about rising property taxes in Precinct 1, ensuring homeowners are not unduly burdened?
One thing, again, with that is, you need to educate them on the resources that we have out there. The resources have been put in play for people who are experiencing hardships. You know, because that's the threat when you talk about I'm on a fixed income and now you're going to raise my taxes. That's a threat to all people. But it's our job to kind of educate the people that there's some outlets out there, there's some resources out there to kind of help educate you on the choices that you have with that.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the audience? Oh, don't be shy. Come on down. Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned the resources out there. Where are they accessible at? How do I access them? How do I let people know about them? Get them into low income communities. Where are they available at?
You know, that's one thing I believe in, to kind of tap into some resources. As a probation officer, I had to make sure some of our people that were getting home and was homeless had some housing. There's some different organizations out there that partnership with people who are making transitions. I have a database that we need to kind of look into, but there's several different agencies out there that assist in people who are having some financial hardships.
What are the agencies in particular?
One, like I said, one agency, like I said, is what we use with this agency I know with Deborah Bowles, the one called Moses. She have a resource. She and I work close together, and she have a list of different things. People are making transitions from housing, and she's one of my backbones.
Good evening, Mr. Turner. My question is, and I'm trying not to make it compound. I was trying to think before I came up here so I could be ready, because I don't want to tell me, but because where we're sitting right now, I think this may be 75215 or 210. We've looked at the escalation of house values shoot through the roof. So even though the governor is giving us a homestead of $100,000 that he's saying is going to save us money, if the house rates keep increasing, which they appear to be, because one of our mayors, Mike Rouders, when he was mayor, said he didn't want any affordable housing within Dallas City proper, and it's happening right now. So that is true. People are being priced out of homes. How are you going to fight to keep the values of housing down? Because, of course, you know, they're balanced. When one goes up, the other. If one's going down, the other's going up.
And that's good you asked that, because one thing what I believe in, like I said, I know I can't do this by myself. We can't do this by ourselves. And one thing I would look into is creating a SWOT analysis and have a task force to kind of look what the strengths and the weaknesses are. And then we can kind of tackle on the weaknesses to try to level off that. Because once we kind of know, if you don't kind of know it all, like I said, but I think of task force, you go out there and do the research, you know, because you got to evaluate what's working. Like I said, we're definitely in 215, 75215, 217 is totally different. You know, the housing is totally different.
All right. Next question. I have a question. With that rising home prices comes revenue. Question is, how will you prioritize and improve the current state of infrastructure, including roads and public facilities, to meet the evolving needs of residents and businesses within your precinct?
With transportation and infrastructure, again, you need to get out there and kind of I wouldn't get out there. I have to kind of evaluate that my best practice is definitely when I would do the SWOT analysis to find out what's the strength and what's the weakness. What's your strength and what's the weakness, and looking to see what's going to be best practice, because it may be something that might not be broke, so we may not have to fix.
So you talked a little bit about resources and education. So I'm curious, as it pertains to the office, what topics do you think that people need to be educated on specifically?
I mean, people need to be educated on the position itself, that this position as a county commissioner is a surge to the community. You know, as a commissioner, you're working with your city council people also, who may have other resources, stuff like that. In this position, it's several different municipalities that's part of District 1. You know, and I would try to get all the city councils and the mayors in the city to work, how we can kind of work together in collaborative effort for the best practice for people in District 1, the citizens in District 1.
All right. You know, as a county commissioner, you often have to work not only with residents, but business. So this question is, what initiatives will you undertake to enhance community engagement, ensuring residents and businesses have an active role in local decision-making, in the local decision-making process?
Well, you always get that, I don't know, no one told me, when did it happen? Town hall meetings, having frequent meetings with the businesses, homeowners, to let them know that we are in this together and this is the depth.
Thank you for coming out to meet us personally in the neighborhood. My question would be, like you stated, there are so many other collaborating municipalities that you work with, but there are so many senior citizens and other people that don't have internet in our communities that often don't get the knowledge or the information or know the availability of the resources. What method can you utilize to help with providing the resources and getting it out to them? When they don't have internet, they can't get on the website to find out.
And that's where different organizations such as Divine Nine, I'm part of Alpha Alpha, you know, outreach in the community. There's different other organizations out there that you can tag with, outreach to the community, because there's some seniors who know I do not use the computer. I don't know how to use the internet, and we still have to send correspondence through the mail, you know, and we kind of have to know that because some people are not computer savvy, even though with economic development, we may have some programs out there where a person could go and get educated, seniors can go and get educated on how to use a computer, but those is like ground zero, number one. We can start from the bottom to working on the top, but definitely as when you look at and survey the area, we got a lot of seniors up in there that we know already that we're not going to go up in there and try to intimidate them with something that they never use. You know, so it's up to us to kind of educate the community. If we got to have little town hall meetings, and then get some of our churches involved in it. You know, they're good resources also.
Thank you. All right. All right, so with that being said, we understand that public safety is always a concern. So how will you collaborate with law enforcement agencies throughout Precinct 1 to ensure public safety and to build trust within the community?
You know, it's always been an issue with public safety with people of color, black and brown. One, you got to get them the trust. You know, normally we have National Night Out.
Say what? Come on, man. You know the rules.
Normally we used to have National Night Out to try to build trust. We have National Night Out to try to build trust in the community. You know, we need to do a little bit more, because once the community don't trust you, and especially in law enforcement, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And then, like I said, you know, just when we think that we're making some headway, then you talk about a shooting going on in Box Springs, you know, of a young kid, and that's just. But we still have to work at it. We have to work at it. We have to work at it and continue to build trust that they're not that bad. They're here to protect. But that's a challenge that across the board we struggle with because of the treatment that things that have happened.
My question is, what programs have you thought of to provide more of a resource to the community as it pertains to mental health? And also, how can those resources be allocated to alleviate problems inside the jail resulting from mental health issues?
Well, that's glad you said that. Me working with probation, as a probation officer, a lot of times we use Metro Care. Metro Care, you know, that was one of our main resources. We have to train law enforcement to the point that they're using Lucerix has become a mental health hospital, you know, and you know, you arrest somebody and first thing you do, you take them down to Lucerix and not knowing that this person has some mental health issues, mental health challenges. So you want to make sure that you got the people educated to train them. But the bulk of the sources that we would always use would be Metro Care, and ADAPT, and they have little sliding scale programs also for people that are indigent. You know, the best thing is to try to get a person back on meds, you know, and once they get on meds, they're balanced out a little bit better. But I think Metro Care would be my first one.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now we've come to that part where we will come to our 2-minute closing. Ms. Kerr, 2 minutes.
First, I always like to thank Molly Belt and the Dallas Examiner for putting this on. This is one of the longest political engagement and education that's been around for I've been a part of it for 15 years, but it's been around a little bit longer than that. Thank you for just taking the time to educate the people. My name is, again, Andre Turner. I have been a servant for the community. I have been a solutionary person all my life. And I'm not afraid to work. I know this position calls for work around the clock. Even though when you're off, you're not off. I learned that from previous experience that in calling, like I said, they say if you are hired, if you're elected for this position, it's around the clock. It takes a lot from family. It takes a lot from your kids, but it's a position that I know if elected, I won't let this community down. The community has been let down. Prime example, the incumbent, not here. And this was important. We can go anywhere else, but this is important. This one, okay? This is in the heart of South Dallas, the heart of our community, which is the beacon, and we're not here. I'm ready to work. I'm woke for work. And I will work tirelessly for you people, the constituents in District 1, to do my job. If elected, I'm here. I'm the one that's going to make things happen. I appreciate your time, for taking time out to listen to me. It's been a long day.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to our final form of candidates. Again, just before we leave, so what's the date for early voting again? February 20th. Through? I just want to make sure you forget. Thank you. Thank you. Next, coming to the stage, we have the incumbent, John Wally Price and Mr. Derek Avery.
Get your clean bottle of water, Derek.
All right, again, those of you who are watching online, we encourage you to submit your questions for our candidates. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Remaining here, this is probably one of the largest ones. Must be some good candidates you want to hear tonight. So,
Come on, Avery.
without further ado, we'll begin with our 2-minute opening, and we'll begin with Commissioner John Wiley Price.
First of all, let me thank you all for being here tonight. This is the second largest county in the state of Texas, 254 counties. This is the 9th largest county in the United States of America, over 3,100 counties. We have a budget. I heard people earlier talking about taxes. Out of 254 counties, we are the 6th lowest in terms of your tax rate. We have $1.7 billion all fund in terms of the taxes. We have $845 million in general revenue. Dallas County is 2.6 million people, 689,000 per district. District 3 is 70% of the county, 955 square miles. Nobody, 15 standing committees. I chair 8 of them. I am full-time. I'm on the ground. And if you look, 70% of what Dallas County does is criminal justice. 20% is public health. I chair those committees. Jail sanitation, compliance, jail population management, and public health. I chair the behavioral health leadership team. And so when you look across the spectrum, I want you and anyone else to tell me what it is that John Wiley Price has not done in the last 38 years. I have been on the ground every day, intellectually, in terms of the capital, about the county. I challenge.
Thank you.
Good evening. I want to thank the Dallas Examiner for putting on this great forum. My name is Derek Avery, and I'm running for Dallas County Commissioner, District 3. And I want to tell y'all who I am, because you need to know who you're voting for. I'm a father of 3. I'm the CEO of Core Development. My company focuses on building affordable housing and developing neighborhoods for everyone. My company's slogan is revitalization without gentrification. And what that means is we need to keep our people in our communities, but also bring our communities back to when they were thriving. So the first thing I want to say thank you to the political establishment in Dallas County. I want to say thank you for getting us to this point. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We stand on the shoulders of people like Elsie Faye Havens, people like Juanita Craft, people like John Wiley Price, people like Cleo Steele, who was the incumbent's mentor. But there comes a time when we need to move the county forward. That's right. And there comes a time when we need a new vision for our complex problems. And now is that time. There's a Joshua for every Moses.
Thanks, son. Come, son.
And there comes a time when we take things that we have now and build on top of that. My name is Derek Avery, and I hope to earn y'all's vote for Dallas County Commissioner. Thank y'all so much.
I forget that. This is going to come quick. So. All right. Not that you can see it 3 other times, but it's different when you get up there. All right, so we'll begin with the traditional question. So what motivated you to run for this position?
So for me, one of the biggest things when I'm out in the neighborhoods, because I've been out in South Dallas building houses on the actual job site myself. I've been in Oak Cliff. I've been in the streets with the community. So for me, as soon as I got here, I noticed there were vacant properties. I noticed that there were a lack of grocery stores. I noticed that people were being taxed out of their properties. So for me, my professional experience as a real estate developer, as a property tax consultant, lined up with my lived experience. I used to be homeless. I've lived that life. I've lived at the lowest margins, but I've also become successful. So I've seen it from both angles. And I think that for me, what I bring to the table is something that we need to see more of in politics. We need to see younger people stepping up, not being afraid.
That's right.
Because there are no seats that belong to people in the seats. They belong to the people in the community.
That's right. Oh, hey, go, man.
And that's why I'm running for Dallas County Commissioner. I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to where I started. Tell me what it is in this seat that I have not done. Whether it's the community health needs assessment, the building of courthouses, the building of access in the community. No one on that court has championed more issues. When you look, and I'm going to start out by saying, I'm a Joe Biden supporter. You know why? Because we in Dallas County work on the margins. We work within the parameters of the tax base that you give us. Well, let me just tell you what has happened. With the ARPA Act, we got $511 million. With the Inland Port Act, we get $695 million potentially. And so as a result, out of the 31 cities in the county of Dallas, 15 of them are in my district. I have 70% of all of Dallas County, that's 955 square miles. 68% is unincorporated. Of the 689,000 individuals who are in my district, 10,900 of those individuals live in the unincorporated area, which is 68 square miles. That means they don't have water, they don't have sewer, and they barely pay county taxes. And so when you look at that, when you look at my district is 40% transportation deprived, it was Councilman Tanel Atkins and I who created the Transit Management Authority, who bought transit out of Kaufman County into the southern sector where they had never been before. It's one thing to place those hospitals and clinics in the sector, but you've got to be able to get there. Transit is still a challenge.
Thank you. You wait. Next question, go. All right, along that theme of money, because we understand that it takes money to run programming, so I'll give you a chance to expand a little bit more on that experience. What is your experience of preparing and authorizing budgets, and what is the budget size for Dallas County?
Well, I just told you, $800 million general revenue, 1.7 billion is all funds. What it takes is just that, preparation. You know, I heard somebody else say earlier about, well, the governor gave $100,000. Dallas County gave $100,000 long before the governor did. We were already at $69,000 plus 20% exemption. You know, Dallas County has been the leader in terms of understanding not only budget. I mean, we're a double, triple A county rating. You can't get it any better. The last the last bond election that you voted on in Dallas County, not city, not community college, not hospital district. You haven't voted on a county bond since 1995. So how have we taken $600 million and leveraged to $1.2 billion in major capital programs? I've got the poorest cities in the county. But guess what? I've got the cities where I'm building water systems, underground, 2 million gallons, above ground, 500 gallons, pump stations. No other commissioner is doing that. Nobody else has as many capital projects as I do. And of unincorporated, I have 106 miles. Nobody else has a half a mile in terms of road. That's what the state legislature says, Commissioner, you're responsible. I heard people up here talking about potholes in the city. That has nothing to do with counties. We have no authority about potholes in the city. We're in the unincorporated area, and that's what we're charged with, maintaining and constructing.
Hold on. You can go to the mic. Hold on. Derek, you can go to the mic. Just for the audience, just remember, please, no recording, no video, no pictures. No video, no pictures. For the audience, please. I saw you. You may proceed.
All right, so with a $1.7 billion budget and for the county, that's a lot of room to be able to do a lot of things that need to be done. So for me, I think about the unincorporated areas, and I think about the areas where it is incorporated. There are actually 17 cities in District 3 in Dallas County. One of the things with the budget that I think that we need to do is we need to think about the areas where people have the least. We need to think about areas like Sand Branch, which I'm sure I'll get to later, that does not have running water. Sand Branch is a freedman's town that's been here for 142 years, and it would only take about $8 million. I know it's been mentioned that we haven't done a bond election since 1995, and we have a AAA bond rating. That means at any given point since 1995, we could have solved that problem in Sand Branch. We could have issued affordable housing vouchers. We could have done things to create more jobs. When we talk about transportation, Southern Dallas County is still disconnected from the rest of the county. We have the money, we have the resources, we have the people with the power. So this is an opportunity to vote for someone who can make those changes, who's bold enough to step out there and submit a bond to be able to solve those problems. Thank you.
Thank you.
See, I didn't run back to my seat.
You did a great job. Love when the plan comes together. I love how candidates will ask a question and that leads me into what I was about to ask them. So with that, I want to ask you about what strategies would you implement to identify and rectify existing environmental disparities in District 3?
Absolutely. So environmental justice is a really, really important point to me. We have areas in District 3 like Joppy. We have areas like Sand Branch. And we also have areas within South Dallas where there was a lot of dumping, there's manufacturers going into the ground. I mean, even think of downtown, where Victory Park stands used to be a brownfield. But what happened is they spent about $100 million to remediate that. So that's something that we can prioritize because we have people with asthma. We have people who have other existing conditions that we actually have the money and the resources to take care of. So when it comes to environmental justice, we have a federal office of environmental justice that we can partner with to meet those needs. And I think those should be prioritized because we need our people living longer. We need them healthier. We don't need Parkland to be our only source of health care. So when we think about environmental justice, I'll just say this. I sent an email last March to the Federal Office of Environmental Justice. I sent an email about Sand Branch, Texas. The reason there was a community meeting in Sand Branch in May that Clay Jenkins called was because I copied in a reporter, was because I sent it to that federal office. So again, you're getting someone that's about action. And that's what I want y'all to remember. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dallas County is a non-attainment county. Has nothing to do with south, east, north, or west. And the real travesty is, within the next 6 years, if we don't come into compliance, we're going to begin to see capping with regards to businesses and relocation coming in this area. Has nothing to do with District 3. We know about the winds and the crosswinds that bring certain particulates. I mean, I've had to clean up the only Tire Mountain. Everybody talks about Shingle Mountain, but nobody talked about Tire Mountain. Tower Mountain was there long before Shingle Mountain, and we basically extinguished that. But that didn't change what happened environmentally. I've said on the court for the last 3 decades that the same CDC, the Center for Disease Control, chronic illness, zip codes are identical. And so it's not just about Parkland, it's about access. When we went into Redbird Reimagined with C.B. Roman, which is Parkland with 40-something thousand square feet, all of a sudden UT Southwestern showed up. Guess what? They've been around since 1943, but they've never been south of I-30. And we're in the process right now of bringing children into that same venue. Guess what? When you look at all of the UT Southwestern campuses, those individuals who provide health care, guess what's number one? Redbird Reimagined. And in the Parkland budget this year, I'm going into Cedar Valley to create another COPC already funded. You will also wind up over on Elam Road with another clinic.
Thank you.
Access.
Question from the audience? Come on down.
Thank you all. I want to thank our black males for standing up and standing forward. But I first want to say before I ask my question, this is inclusive of all elected officials coming together peacefully, forgetting about the past, thinking about the future. Now for my question. What can you do for us, and do you believe in a village?
I think you give it this time. Okay. All right, so let me answer that question. She was saying, what are we going to do for our people and how are we going to create a village? So I believe in collaborative leadership. I believe in co-governance. I believe in partnering with community organizations that are on the ground solving problems. I believe that the county has the ability to do that. We can fund those things. We can also physically be there to provide help. You know, from the county commissioner position, a lot of times people think it's just roads and bridges and boring stuff and approving contracts, but it's also an opportunity to show your face within the community, everywhere in the community. So I think that when we think about a village, that means we need every single person, even in this room, even out on the internet. We need everyone as part of the decision making. So one thing that I will bring to the table is co-governance. I'm going to meet with all of the community organizations,
That's right.
bring everyone to the table so that we can make decisions collectively.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering. Much respect to both of you. My question is, a budget is a moral document, and what you fund says what your values are. And we know that the jail and policing are the two largest items on the budget. So my question to both of you gentlemen is, will you commit, if you are able to attain this seat, to reallocate some of those resources from the jail and policing to funding the socio-economical needs of people in this county?
No pressure, right? You know it's a good question. Everyone claps for the question.
That's the Megan
So,
Thee Stallion generation. Y'all go ahead.
Right now, 40% of our budget goes to public safety. And it takes $140 million every year to operate the jail. With a $1.7 billion budget, we have the resources to fund programs that are preventative. Because right now, the criminal justice system is reactive. We need to keep people from getting into the criminal justice system in the first place. So that means we need to fund affordable housing. We need to fund economic development. We need to fund better transportation. We need to make sure that all of the cities that are within Dallas County have the opportunity to increase their down payment assistance programs. That's one of the things, one of my goals. We also need to make sure that people are paying living wage jobs. So one thing that I will commit to is reallocating that budget, because true public safety means that people have equity. People have actual equity. Their needs are being met.
That's right.
Without getting too nerdy, my company is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if we're not taking care of the most basic needs of people, we are not creating a safe environment. So I will commit to reallocating that budget. Thank you.
Some things are statutory. We have no options but to be the collector of whatever law enforcement brings in. That jail is larger than 80% of the cities in the state of Texas. We're authorized for 7,100, but at midnight we do the count. There's a classification system. Females, when they enter custody, it changes all the dynamics. And by the way, the annual budget for the jail is closer to $200 million. It's $18 million every month. 1,450 detention service officers. We don't get a chance to say 1 to 48 is the ratio. The Texas Commission on Jail Standards. We're the only county that has not outsourced our custody. Only county. Tarrant County, $30 million outsourcing. Harris County, $50 million. We have continued to manage ours within the confines of the 7,100 of which the Texas Commission on Jail Standards say we must abide by. We don't even have the opportunity to say that we're not going to take. But keep in mind, this is the Commissioner's Court that has the largest pretrial diversion in the area. We divert more individuals than any other urban county. Tarrant County, you're in jail for $500. Over here, you get diverted. And through my committees, which is jail sanitation, which is a compliance issue, we get a chance. By the way, Parkland runs a 300-bed medium hospital, $38 million inside that jail. And mental health is the Sandra Bland Act. And we have all of that going on within the jail.
All right. Again, I just love it when you just kind of lead me into a question I was going to ask. So we talked earlier about, we had a couple of judges that spoke, and we had our county assessor that talked about their offices. So this leads to court. This talks about Frank Crowley. What is your role in plan to ensure that the court systems in Frank County are functioning efficiently and working effectively? What is your role?
Well, there's called a Separation of Powers Act. The judicial get a chance to do. They don't respond to us. We don't set their budget. We only set the clerk's budget. District clerk, county clerk. We don't control their budget. And what I already do is try to manage by public, I ain't gonna say embarrassment, but either they're performing or they're not. First of all, you gotta show up for work. Amen. Okay? And there are some, and I've heard earlier talk about the OCA, Office of Court Administration. Look and see what the numbers are. See who's showing up for work. I mean, I know, because I'm there every day. I don't show up, here and there. I show up for work every day. And so that's the only thing we have to do, to manage. County budget, and Polly keeps talking about 1.7. That's all funds, ladies and gentlemen. You don't get a chance to do with all funds. It's $800 million is general revenue. And the statute is very clear on what we must fund. We don't get options. And you talk about a bond, that bond sounds good. You can take and do a bond election. All that means, usually, at some point in time, you got to raise the taxes to try to pay for that bond. We have lived within the margins that you set as taxpayers. I just told you, major capital improvement. We've leveraged that $600 billion to $1.2 billion. You know, I work with my cities. We have a 50-50 plan. And so when you look at my cities, to the poor, I've got the fastest growth in terms of vendors moving into the area.
Thank you. All right. So when we think about the courts, one big issue that we have, I'll give you an example. Just a few months ago, $2.4 million went missing from Dallas County. And no one knows where it went. And part of the problem with that is, from the Commissioner's Court, one thing that we can do better is implementation. So the Odyssey software that runs the courts, that runs the jail, I don't have an issue with the software itself, and I say this publicly. It was the implementation, because when you roll out, any first-year IT student will tell you, if you roll out a program, you have to keep the base program in place before you start the new program, and you have to beta test it before you do that. That's one way where we can save money. And just to address bonds, you can also keep the tax rate lower and still have a bond raise to make sure that you're paying for the things that actually invest in the county to grow the tax revenue. Because if you have people building houses and developing commercial real estate in the southern sector, you're growing the tax revenue. So now you can do both things. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, I love how you're addressing the issues, and you're addressing the issues and not your opponent. I love how you're doing that. So with that, I want to ask this question. I got it. We say children are our future, and Dallas County deals with juvenile. How would you address, what do you see as a specific need or area of concern within the juvenile justice system? And what would you do to address it?
Absolutely. So I'm going to be kind. I think we all know who was on the Juvenile Justice Board for 20 years and no longer is on that board. But the jail for the juveniles is in the same condition, the bad condition that the adult jail was in. And I have a personal issue with that because those are our children. They've done something wrong, but we need to be rehabilitating people, not putting them in squalor, not having bad food service. We need to do something better than just have them languish. So one of the things that I would do, one, is the diversion programs. We need to keep people from getting into the jail system in the first place. And we need to actually go all the way back to our teachers, to education, and think about prisons are built on third grade and reading levels. I think we all know that. So if we're thinking about preventing people from entering the criminal justice system, we need to go to the schools and make sure we're partnering with every school that's in our district, that's in our county, to make sure the kids are getting what they need so that they're not turning into a life of crime. They're not struggling because their mom can't afford a house or their dad can't afford their house. Because most crime is based on desperation. Most crime is not people who are inherently criminal. That's what they like to say about people that look like me. But it's not based on inherent criminality. It's based on desperation of circumstances. So if we fund programs to make sure that everyone has what they need, then we will make sure that we're lowering the crime rate and we're keeping our kids out of the criminal justice system. Thank you.
As usual, I would not have you leave here ignorant. I want you to become informed. Dallas County spends more money on placement than any other county. We spend county money, not state money. We are under the governance of the TJJD, okay, Texas Juvenile Justice Division, just like I talked a few minutes ago about the adult system. We get audited. We talk about food. Dallas County in the adult system serves 20,000 meals a day, calorically balanced. We get audited. In the TJJD system, the same is the case. And so none of that is factual. Number two, if you look at it, I have a better not only appearance rate in terms of not just statutorily, but being there in the juvenile system. I am the one that said, bring the children home, because we were sending them all over the United States. We have the largest clinical staff. That's not the issue. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow in court. 49% of the kids are there are low-risk offenders. But when you get petitions filed by the district attorney's office, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow, we do not have a chance to work around that. The department does not. See, so, I mean, be informed. You know, don't think what you think is going on. Be informed. And I think when you check and find out with regards to the so-called surveys that are out there, you will see where Dallas County is in terms of being able to manage.
My question is regarding the inland port. I know that it was spoke about just briefly.
The what kind of port?
Inland port.
Oh, the inland port.
Yes. It's in regards to the original plans for it, and if you guys have, if either one of you have any plans to expand it further than what it is.
It was 364 acres. I was there in the beginning. I've already signed an MOU with Plaquemines out of New Orleans. And as I said, putting together a local government corporation, which requires 3 of my cities and the county to be able to forge an instrument in our toolbox that makes us eligible for $695 million of inland port money that the Biden administration has put up. When you look at the 10 top cities in this country, there are only 2 cities that don't have access to water ports. Number 4 is Dallas. Number 8 is Atlanta. And so what we have on the next court session, not tomorrow, the next court session is on LGC, Local Government Corporation, which will then make us eligible to go after those dollars, and $695 million. I plan on folding the Transit Management Authority, which again, Councilman Atkins and I created, which is funded by the North Central Texas Council of Government, to address that part. You can bring all the businesses in the world into that area. Transportation is still an issue. And so as a result, that's what we do.
All right, so if y'all go to my website, DerekForDallas.com, you'll see that my 3 main priorities are housing, economic development, and transportation. And when we think about transportation, we think about the inland port. The size of Love Field, is everyone familiar with Love Field, the airport? Okay. Does everyone know that, did anyone not know that Lancaster has an airport? Okay, Lancaster has an airport. So the original plan for the Dallas Inland Port was to create jobs for people that look like us, black and brown folks, and for anyone else for that matter. But because we're south of 30, that's who normally gets those jobs and who needs them the most. So there was a developer out of California that had a huge plan to make the Lancaster Airport the same size of Love Field based on air freight tonnage. That would have created a lot of jobs that would have been accessible for a lot of people. But that deal was killed at Commissioner's Court. And I think that also took away our economic development opportunity in the southern sector. Also, transportation, if we invested in transportation so that we could have what we need in the southern sector, which is what I have a plan to do, then we would have that economic development. We'd have living wage jobs for our people. Thank you. I was just doing a spin move real quick.
Stretch your legs.
You know what I mean?
Extra steps.
There you go.
As a community organizer, transparency is important to inform the work that I do. So sticking with the county jail, it has been very difficult to figure out who is in the jail, meaning what zip codes are they coming from, what age they are, and what are the offenses that they are being charged with. So if elected into this office, will you commit to transparency and will you put data and resources behind your commitment?
Absolutely. I think transparency in government is very important. I think that we need to know where our dollars are being spent, and I think that we need to know the data and how people are being treated. So with the jail, one thing that I will commit to is making sure that everyone knows exactly who's in the jail and exactly where they're from and know the demographics. Because also we can use that data to make sure that we're designing programs to prevent people from even entering the jail, like I've stated before. So transparency is something that even at the county level, even at the city level, we need it all the way across government agencies. And I think that right now, if we wanted to get that data, we have to do an open records request. And I think that's ridiculous personally. I think that for me, under my administration, you would have access to that data because we have to be accountable for how we're treating our people. That's on us. So as elected officials, we have to be accountable for that, and we have to be accountable to the community. So we need y'all to have the data so y'all can hold us accountable to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to make sure we are caring for our people properly. Thank you.
I'm the only commissioner who's never supported an IT director. And my position has been, we have not had the right butts in the seat. The data you're asking for, I can't even get through Odyssey. I'm just trying to figure out who the hell's in the jail, not what they're being charged with, because that is what we get tagged with. Those individuals, I can't have, right now, the state of Texas, we have 400 individuals in the Dallas County Jail who have been mentally adjudicated, should be in state hospitals. 72 of them are misdemeanors. It costs you as a taxpayer $14 million a year. And when they term out, which is Class A, Class B, 180, 360, we have to turn them loose. But as chairman of NITBA, the Behavioral Health Leadership Team, we take and we do handoffs. So when you go down Al Lipscomb Way, when you look at Deer, when you look at Homeward Bound, mental health, we do programs. We got all the programs that we have the authority to do and work with. But the data you're asking for, all you need to know is that PREA, Prison Rape Elimination Act, says we must segregate those individuals. Everybody else is 1 to 48. The real problem is females, because custody is designed for males. And when females come into the system, they cannot be in sight nor sound of a male. And so the classification system gives us a real challenge. They talked about Crowley a few minutes ago, 833 square feet, 833,000 square feet. When you look at what's going on in that jail, over 1 million. And when we've got to do those towers and keep them segregated, that's called the Texas Commission on Jail Standards.
Thank you. Next question. High-speed internet access is a problem within Dallas County. What is your plan to improve internet access throughout your district and the county?
Okay, two things. First of all, he said something a few minutes ago, and said I wasn't going to reveal is that $2 million, don't believe what you read in the paper. Money ain't gone. Now, that's all I can say about that. Money ain't gone. But that's what happens when you believe everything you read in the paper. But the whole issue of, what was the rest of it? Because I want to catch his word.
High-speed internet access.
High-speed. ARPA, back at Joe Biden, American Rescue Plan, we got $36 million for broadband. One thing COVID showed us, if you are south of I-30, you got a challenge. And so as a result, we are now going to the streets with $36 million for what we call last mile. You know, it's an issue, and we know that. And so when we got the money, we called out. And again, it's primarily, you know, my district. When you talk about, you know, 30, I just told you that even when you look at that community health needs assessment, and they talk about community health workers, they talk about telemedicine, it's a challenge because of broadband. And people who are south of I-30 live 23 years less than people who live north. Not in Mississippi, not in Alabama, in Dallas, Texas. But that's what the community health needs. But guess what? What Kwanzaa Fest used to do for 2 days, for 29 years, Parkland now institutionalized $38 million. Go out and check their budget and see $38 million while community health workers are going into the community in those chronic zip codes.
Thank you.
So have y'all ever heard of a term called digital redlining?
Yes.
So we know what bank redlining is, right?
Right.
You know, digital redlining is making sure that people in certain areas don't have internet access.
That's right.
Right now, and this is no dig at this company, however, it's just the truth. AT&T, their headquarters are right down the street, you know, a couple of minutes from us right now. We're in South Dallas, right? AT&T's international headquarters are 5 minutes away from us. So why, during COVID, we had kids in South Dallas going to the library, going to the community centers to get Wi-Fi to do their homework?
Sitting outside of the library.
We've had plenty of time to solve this problem. We've had plenty of leaders in place to solve this problem. This is something that we can do right now. Because if you elect someone like me, or if you elect me specifically, I'd be in support of having an IT director, because then we wouldn't have those fumbles when we implement software. Also, when we think about our community and making sure that we have true equity, right now, internet is almost like having water. Internet is a basic human right. People that work from home need access to high-speed internet.
That's right.
And that's something that we can do right now. Thank you.
Again, I ask those individuals who are watching online, please submit your questions to be answered by our candidates. Are there any more questions from the audience?
Serrano Keith Bell from the Dallas Justice Review. So I have been at the commission's meeting 3 times. I live in a predominantly half black community, half white community. 3 times I begged them to open up a community center in my community to help the black community who are disenfranchised. I got a mother living in a car in storage units. And 3 times I have a white person that run my district, the commissioner, and a white councilman. They're the ones who helped the Confederate monuments. And I begged the commissioners 3 times, can you open up a center to help the black community? So my question is, you want the black votes and minority votes in your community, but your brothers and sisters are suffering in my community. And I begged for help, and no one helped. There was silence. What are you gonna do about that? Thank you.
Absolutely. So the question was, will I open a community center?
Yes, your question.
Sorry, District 10.
Okay, in District 10, will I open a community center?
Yes.
Okay. First,
Specifically for minorities.
for minorities, well, I mean, one, District 10 is City of Dallas, and I'll have to understand what part of District 10 that you live in, because it may not be in District 3. However, we do make policy for the entire county. And one thing I will say is that community centers are something that keeps people out of trouble. It keeps crime reduced. I mean, I used to play at the community center in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So I would fully support funding a community center in your neighborhood. I would work with the commissioner that's in your neighborhood and also with the council person, because again, you know, we have to collaborate to solve problems. So I think that it doesn't matter which community, you know, if it's black, white, Hispanic, whatever, whoever is within that community, we need to have something where we all can gather and spend time together, you know, learn about each other culturally so we have less issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, again, it shows my opponent's naivete. That's in District 2. And they get that commissioner gets a chance to make the call with that council person. That is the same district, to show them how much he and my panel don't know. We tried with Parkland to put a COPC in that community. Guess what? The community rejected it. The community didn't want it. Do you realize we have the largest COPC, community-oriented primary care clinics? That's called Access. They're right there in Hamilton Park. They didn't want it, and they rejected it. So, I mean, you don't get a chance to just willy-nilly. You make general policy like that $100,000 tax fee, that 20% that we were doing. You get a chance, but you don't get a chance to just go in there and say, I think I'll just go into that district and put up a community center. No, we don't do community center. That's usually the purview of the cities. That's not the purview of counties. And so when you go out and figure out what counties do and can do, then you will understand that we are operating within those confines.
All right. Thank you. All right, so this question, I want to double back around. We understand that small businesses are the backbone of most towns and cities. So, as a commissioner, what are the 3 most important things you can do to attract new businesses to the county and support existing small business or entrepreneurs in Dallas County?
Well, first of all, we have an SB department. And as I said, if you look at the growth, when you look at Trina Solar, the largest solar manufacturing, not logistical, manufacturing company in the world, now is located on Sunrise in Wilmot. 1,500 jobs, average $70,000. When you look at Canadian Solar, again, in my district, same thing. 1,500 jobs, average $70,000. My opponent keeps talking about collaboration. The biggest collaboration is between what's going on in Cedar Valley and Best Southwest and the Inland Port. All of that is part of the collaborative that we create. That's the reason we're going into Cedar Valley, creating that COPC. So our young people can get trained and have access. And so when you look, as I said, I'm going to go like I began. Tell me what it is within my purview that I have failed to do in Dallas County. Talks about $8 million, not true, to bring water. I just told you, 10,900 people don't have water. And the only reason they have septic tanks is because the health department requires it. But they will tell you, there's no way to bring water to 68 square miles. That's what the unincorporated area, 68 square miles of unincorporated. I just told you 106 miles of unincorporated road. The law says I have to take care of that. Orphan roads, I'm responsible. But not potholes in the city and all. That's city.
Thank you.
So can you repeat the question? Because I think you asked for 3 solutions.
What are the 3 most important things you as a county commissioner can do to attract new businesses and support existing small businesses within the county?
Okay. So 1, that's economic development. Of my 3 pillars, economic development is my second one. So that's how we create those living wage jobs. And, just to address something real quick, I do sit on the board of Green Careers Texas, where we train people in 75210 and 75215 to become solar installers. So part of that is making sure that we have a workforce that's qualified to fill those jobs. So 1, when it comes to economic development, the first thing that I would do is I would create a program at the county where you can come to the county And I know there's business owners in the room. Can I get a show of hands of who owns a business? Okay, so imagine you started your business. When you first start your business and you need $100,000 to get started, one thing that I will implement, one of these solutions, is I will give you $100,000. I'll create a grant program. We have the budget to do so, to give you that $100,000 to get your startup going. Also, when it comes to investing in businesses who are already here, I want to qualify those businesses to provide technical assistance, to provide those grants to help those businesses grow so that we can grow the base. And then the third thing that I would do as far as economic development goes is make sure that our economic development departments that are in our member cities within Dallas County, I would make sure that we're adding money to those budgets, that they're actually investing in small and micro businesses. Because right now, most of our economic development dollars are going to large corporations. But 99% of Texans work for a small business. And so if we invest in small businesses, that's how our economy grows. So those are my 3 priorities when it comes to economic development. Thank y'all so much.
That was my expertise. I have another question for you. All right.
There's no more water. So. I got distracted.
I forgot how to phrase this one. This goes for if you're elected as well as current commissioner. Will you give more funding to MetroCare, which is the largest provider of mental health care in the county, if elected?
Yes, that's a simple question. But let me give you a little bit of background on that, because we can tie. So MetroCare is a mental health organization that's funded fully by the county. One of the things that we need to make sure that people have what they need, because we think about homelessness, we think about people who are out on the street. Being out on the street creates mental health problems. Sometimes we get the thing confused and say that everyone out on the street has mental problems. But if you have to live in a tent for 17 years, like some of my former clients, that would make you have those types of episodes. Permanent supportive housing is the solution to those issues. Because what happens is when we can create developments, and this can be done at the county level, it can be done in partnership. There's a number of ways to do this. But to solve homelessness, we have to create these opportunities where we have on-site services. Because right now people are disconnected from those resources, because we have to have affordable housing with mental health services like MetroCare on site. We have to have the medical care on site, and we can have the things that people need like small grocery stores on site. Professionally, that's something that I do, but if elected, that's something that I will expand and I would fund. Thank you.
MetroCare is a state agency. It's nothing like being informed. They get some dollars from the county. They get most of their money through the North Texas Behavioral Health, which is the local authority. At least know your facts. We take and collaborate with MetroCare, but MetroCare is not the primary delivery of healthcare. Now let me just explain, and you'll hear it here tonight. I've asked staff, we are just now getting that opioid money. Parkland got $2 million so they can do medical assistant treatment in the jail. The big problem is the handoff. Dallas County is going to be the recipient in Region 9 of probably close to about $50 million along with Kaufman County. We're now going to the street with those dollars. I met with CSCD today as we talked about Gateway and how many of those individuals down there have opioid challenges. There are a lot of things, but at least be informed about what's going on from the mental health side and what we are presently doing in Dallas County.
All right, gentlemen, as we are, again, if you're watching online, please submit your questions. Oh, okay. We do that. And also, again, gentlemen, you're doing a great job in answering your questions. I just ask you make a straight sight on that question and keep your answer straight to that question and not addressing your opponent in a sly way.
Who you talking?
My question pertains to housing. I understand that the city of Dallas does put money, but not enough money in their budget for housing repair. The county also has a budget for housing repair that they do for citizens, and they also have a budget for emergency housing. My question is, how much money is in this current budget, and also what can be done? Well, as far as the money that we get, how much can be increased? Because everything is going up, and it's hard for everyone when it comes to home repair. A lot of people are having problems keeping their home up, so they don't get excited for college, what have you.
Well, first of all, as I said, county traditionally has not been in the housing business, okay? When we talk about that ARP money again, American Rescue Plan, one of the things we did, not only with that $36 million for broadband, we took $50 million and put it on the street for nonprofits. Unfortunately, the majority of that money went to eviction solutions, okay, primarily. However, I took money and in J.J. Lemon, I've got 185 lots that I'm developing over on Lancaster Road. I've got 57 lots. Out in Clark Road, I've got, so everything that Biden administration has given us the opportunity to do, we do. We don't appropriate money in our budget. Again, the county budget is driven on certain constraints. Maintenance and operation, debt service, and once you get past that, you're starting to work again on those margins. You don't get a chance to do whatever it is you want to do. That's the reason, again, I'm going to keep talking about Joe Biden and all the money that he has given so that we can do some expansiveness that we haven't been able to do. Dallas County has never been able to do. But you check and see the number of projects. Again, I dare you, there is not another commissioner that has more projects than do I. Where's all with my board?
To answer the housing, are you gonna increase the housing repair?
Housing repair? The housing repair money is already baked in. It's already baked into the budget. I mean, no need to breathe it. They can't service what they got. I mean, that comes through my public health committee. They can't even service. We can't service what we got.
Thank you.
Audience members, please do not go back and forth with the candidates.
All right, so I love to be called uninformed or being called ignorant because that's hilarious to me. I'm not addressing anyone directly. I'm just saying in general. I want y'all to fact check anything that I've said and fact check the incumbent as well, because everything that I'm saying is factual. Also, to answer the question, we're talking about housing. So for me, one of the things that we can do is we can add more funding to make sure home repair is funded fully, because most of that money comes from HUD. So when we talk about being informed, HUD only allows for the single family home repair program $5,000 per repair. So most people don't qualify. First, you have to have all your taxes clear. You have to have a clear title on your house. So a lot of people who apply for those programs are not able to take advantage of that money. And then when they are, you can't add money to it. So I worked on this when I was the vice president of real estate development when I was at Fraser Revitalization. And so one of the things that we did, and this is something that I would bring to the county, is we funded it separately from HUD to add money to those programs to help people like seniors who need their houses updated. They need them retrofitted so that they're up to code. So that's something that we can fund. Thank you. Sorry, I got comfortable.
My name is Layla Smith. I'm the student council president of Junior High Talented and Gifted.
Excellent.
I'm wondering, what are your specific goals and what are your action steps to get there?
Excellent. So for me, I have I have several goals, but the first one, I want to increase home ownership. Because if more people own homes, that creates equity. That's where most people's wealth is accumulated. So I want to increase the down payment assistance programs that are in cities, because right now, because prices have gone up, our down payment assistance programs are inadequate. So we can create more programs so that people can become homeowners. A second goal is I want to reduce the population of the jail. Because even though it passed an inspection recently, the jail still is at near capacity. And that's a problem. My third goal is to bring water to Sand Branch, Texas. And we actually can do that. So there's a thing called a letter of map revision, where if something is in a floodplain and it's never flooded, it can be lifted out of the floodplain. And also, so FEMA the Army Corps of Engineers can determine it not being a floodplain. And that's something that I've actually already worked on. And I'm gonna do that in office or out of office. I've committed to bringing water to Sand Branch. Sand Branch is 9 square miles. We talk about the 68 square miles that are unincorporated, but Sand Branch in particular, those are our people. We have kids going to school every day, brushing their teeth with bottled water from donations. That's unacceptable. That's not something that I can sleep at night thinking about. And I've physically been out in Sand Branch giving out water. I'm gonna be there every other weekend to help with that. But I've also created a coalition to make sure we bring water, and we have the resources to do it. We have the government partnerships and federal government agencies willing to fund it. So those are my 3 goals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How many of you have ever been to Sand Branch? How many of you think it's 9 square miles? How many of you think there are children out there? How many of you know it's 38 individuals? Yesterday, and I'm out there every day because I service it. Out there every day, 38 individuals, and most out of the squad. The house won't even retain it. That's number one. Number two, I was hoping that they have a deal where I could show this video that I just did of Sandra.
Audience.
And so my point is, at the end of the day, as I said, I've got 689,000 people who live in my district. 38 live in Sand Branch. 10,900 live in unincorporated area. Sand Branch, in terms of its area, is not 9 square miles. Go look at DCAD. And so when you look at that, and by the way, we're not even charging folks out there taxes. And I spend more per capita resources out there than any place else, because I have to move heavy equipment into that area just to be able to service it. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, I'm going to still challenge you to say, my cities, my community, there is no one that has serviced more in their district than have I. And you can't just compress it. Jail is 50 years old. We don't want to build another one. They're gonna take us out though, because they want that property. Has nothing to do. Well, the problem is you can't just build a jail. You got to build a courthouse. And based on having to build a courthouse, it's a big difference between having to build, because you gotta have transportation.
Thank you. One moment. All right, I know that right when we finish, you all are gonna jump up and run out of here. Got a quick announcement.
All right, let's give it up for our moderator. He's gonna give it up for the panel. Let's give it up for our moderator. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Wilson, it's a tough job. I know because I used to do it, so I'm glad that you're doing it now. But I was asked by Molly Bell. Let's give it up for Molly Bell. I talk to Molly every day and every other day. And we talk constantly about our community. I serve as the first vice president of Texas NAACP and the state political action chair for the NAACP. And what Molly has asked me to do is to talk to you about what we need to do. First and foremost, how many of you attended the community conversations? How many of you came out for the community conversation? All right. So one thing that Molly and the Dallas Examiner is committed to do, and something we should have been doing a long time ago, is to engage us in between elections. Oftentimes, and Monday night politics is good, but it only lasts between elections. But what we've started doing is hosting community conversations so we can continue to talk about issues that are important to our community. How many of you were aware of the fact that last week when the State Board of Education met, the new chair, who was recently appointed by the governor, decided to remove the discussion of Native American studies from the agenda?
I'm not shocked.
After having discussions, after everybody on the state board being in support of it, State Board member Aisha Davis let many people know that, you know what, I just got a call, and I was talking to my colleagues, the new chair has removed Native American studies. Now, why is that important? Just 4 years ago, African American studies was passed unanimously. Hispanic American studies passed unanimously. But you know what's going on now? Because there is an effort to roll back the progress that has been made in our state. Because of that, because of laws such as critical race theory law and the law that closed all diversity, equity, and inclusion offices on college campuses, because of those things, there's an effort now, because in 2025 is critical. You're gonna hear me, if I'm still around, you're gonna hear me talk about that more than anything else. 2025 is the year in which they're gonna review the social studies standards. And what they're already planning to do is use these laws to say, we can't teach African American studies anymore. We can't teach Native American studies, and that's why it's on hold. We can't teach Hispanic American studies. So this is a call to action. What's important is not what happens on March 5th, but what happens on March 6th. Not what happens on November 5th, but what happens November 6th. What are we gonna do after the elections are over to make sure that our community and our voice is heard? So what I'm gonna challenge you to do is after this, if you are committed, because once the call to action goes out, we need you to take action. At the end of this, there's a sign-up sheet right where you signed in, and it says call to action. Put your name, phone number, and email address. And what we're gonna do is send out emails when we need people to take action. Email the governor, email your state representative, email your state senator. Email your school board member, email your council member, email the mayor. You got a bond coming up. You got a charter review coming up. These things are gonna be taking place around these elections. So we need to know what the issues are. So please, if you're committed, if you're not committed, just walk out and leave. But if you're committed, when you leave here, step outside, sign your name, email address, and phone number, and I promise we will contact you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. President Thomas. All right, now, we're all committed. Our candidates are committed to giving us a 2-minute closing. So we'll begin with Mr. Avery first. Oh, sorry. Long night for me too.
Long night, right? All right. I want y'all to write down a number and memorize this number. 2,531. That's the percentage of the tax increase in Sand Branch, Texas over the last 2 years. They are paying county taxes. They're paying taxes to Dallas County, to Parkland, to the College District. They are paying taxes, but they do not have water. I'm committed to handling that. And as far as being out there physically, y'all can go on my page and y'all can see pictures of me in Sand Branch. Y'all can see the relationships that I have built with the people in Sand Branch. There are 88 families right now in Sand Branch. Not 38, but 88. But the majority of those families that were there before, because there were over 400 families, moved out because they gave up. What I want y'all to understand that I'm the type of leader that will not give up on my people. I will make sure our people have water. I'll make sure our people have housing. I will make sure our people have jobs. And I'll make sure we can all get there quickly. And I want to thank everyone for coming out. And I want y'all to support the idea of action. I want fear and intimidation to be removed from our political structure here in Dallas County. Nobody should be afraid to run against anybody. No seat belongs to an individual. The seats belong to the people. And y'all can always contact me. I will be accessible. And I appreciate y'all coming out. And I hope y'all elect me to be y'all's next Dallas County Commissioner. Thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Maintaining 38 people. Unfortunately, I'm sorry you can't see this, those of you that have been to Sand Branch. Okay? You're going to sit, you can see. 38 people. And they still don't, yeah, you can see it. But I invite you, just go down 175, make a right on Beltline Road, and don't go too fast, because when you get to the wastewater treatment plant, that's Sand Branch. I don't have anything else to say. I'm close.
Thank you. Let's give both of our candidates a round of applause. All right, so before we leave, when does early voting begin?
February 20.
2, Election Day. And remember, we don't let friends vote alone. We vote with them. Have a good night.